and attention that our facilities need when we have about 1 million square feet of facility. Technology improvements, we migrated all staff to Gmail and Google Calendar. I'm still recovering. I was very used to Outlook, but I'll get there. I'll be the last person. Also in the district, we ordered about 1,800 Chromebooks for district-wide for all school levels. We expanded our one-to-one program in 6th through 8th grades. Within the IT department, we did a reorganization within that department, and we feel that will better utilize the skills of our IT people and provide better service to the buildings. In Skyward, we moved to an in-house server, really to increase performance and to enhance the integration. We are doing a pilot and response to intervention program starting in October for Skyward. Did elementary scheduling and updated to match sort of the state reporting requirements, things of that sort. And this year, teachers have a electronic sign for IEPs and 504s. Hardware and network, we increased the speed of our internet to 1 gigabyte per second. We upgraded our firewall and then increased the network speed between the Ed Center and the middle schools. And this is an ongoing project. We'll be working on our elementary schools next year. And that's really it in a nutshell. It's a little bit more detail in the printed version. Like I said, that will be in the website.
Great. Are there any questions? Okay, I guess we welcome back Josh, right, for this year, and you have a report for us. You're a senior this year, right? Okay. Good luck on that.
All right, so first in academics, the class of 2016 has been meeting with their guidance counselors to discuss the college process.
Do you have a microphone?
Oh.
Just because it's on the television,
right.
It carries better. Sorry, thanks.
So first in academics, the class of 2016 is going to meet with their guidance counselors to discuss the college application process. This is the first step in the class of 2016 applying to college, so it's very exciting about this. Kaplan, the test prep company, administered a free SAT, ACT diagnostic test, which allowed students to see which testing their students take. As some of you may know, that new SAT test is coming out this year, will be coming out in March, and the students will let them know which test they would be most suited to take. And the Home and School Association charges students a small fee to take this test and raised over $4,000. Starting the school year, the bell schedule for high schools and military, effectively making period 9 8 minutes longer. Just to remind everyone, period 9 is the time allotted at the end of the day for students to seek extra help from teachers. So this is something that I feel the students are very much enjoying and benefiting. So now to athletics. The girls tennis team won the Smash Invitational, which took place in Livingston, New Jersey, a few weeks ago. And the first official football game of the season, otherwise known as the blackout, marked the beginning of the varsity football season. Unfortunately, Ridgewood lost to Marshfield, the second highest ranked team in Massachusetts, and the score was 21-7. So, looking forward to another game. Prior to the football game, however, a ceremony was held for 9/11, which was led by the police honor guard. The Star Spangled Banner was sung by the Maroon Men, and a poem regarding 9/11 was read by Mr. Cook. And Mr. Tudor was also in attendance with his volunteer fire squad, which hung the American flag from the ladder in their fire. So it was a very nice ceremony, and we enjoyed it. And in arts, the two acapella groups, the RHS, the Acapellas, and the Maroon Men, held editions this past week. The RHS choir accompanied Mr. Don Bell as he delivered a touching address at school, with high school remembering all love. Thank you, Mr. Don Bell. The U.S. Marching Band's competition will be taking place this Saturday. Members of the marching band will be competing against bands from all across the country at the Life Stadium. And finally, in arts cast list has been finalized for the new players' fall production of Reporter and Power 10. And finally, for activities, The RHS annual club fair was held on September 4th. Over 80 clubs were in attendance, allowing freshmen to sign up for clubs such as Deck Out of the House and Project Interact, giving them the opportunity to become acclimated to their new school. And back to school night took place on September 17th. Parents came in and heard they're told to teachers speak, and I heard a lot of feedback from my parents and my teachers, and they seem to very much enjoy it. And finally, the Backwoods Dance will take place in Vanna Square on October 3rd. The theme is Throw Backwoods, where students are encouraged to wear clothing from past decades. So we're all really excited for that. And one more item that's not in the usual report. I'll be reaching out to the BFGW school presidents to just get a perspective and give a better perspective of the middle schools and what's going on there, just to add some information. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. So much activity already at the high school. It's only what, the third week?
Yes, third week.
Great. We will open public comment now. And as you can see on the agenda, we ask that comments be limited to no more than 4 minutes. The microphone is open. Is there no one here? Oh,
my name is Mary McCallum. I reside at 239 Heights Road, and I'm here tonight to express my enthusiastic support for Jenny Smith-Wilson's application to fill a vacant seat on the Board of Ed. I know that later on this evening you're going to be interviewing the candidates, and I'm taking the opportunity just to give you my 2 cents. As a trustee of the Ridgewood Education Foundation for the past 3 years, I have worked very closely with Jenny and watched as she has almost single-handedly transformed the foundation from a pretty underutilized resource for the schools to a much more relevant and financially significant contributor and partner to the district's major initiatives. Jenny guided the foundation through our leadership grants to the Learning Commons, the one-to-one initiative Chromebook in the high school, and most recently the refurbishment of the middle school science classrooms. I can only imagine what she can help the Board of Ed accomplish if she is allowed to focus her energy in this room. Now I want to tell you something about the person as opposed to the accomplishments. Jenny has vision and a formidable intellect. She approaches challenges with sensitivity, thoughtfulness, creativity, and drive. Lots and lots of drive. And she is clearly devoted to our community and our schools. One last but very important point that I would like you to consider tonight and in the weeks coming as you make a decision. Jenny has no agenda. She hasn't stepped up to further her own interests or her views, but rather to be of service to her community. She understands the importance of objectivity, particularly when faced with the types of issues this board faces every day. I appreciate the challenges that each of you face for our kids, and I admire your willingness to give your time and your talent to tackle the hard issues. It's a lot to maintain our tradition of excellence here in Ridgewood. I believe strongly that Jenny Smith-Wilson can help continue this very good work. Thank you for listening.
Ridgewood resident, Ridgewood parent, Ridgewood teacher, and president of the Ridgewood Education Association. Tonight, you choose a new member to serve on the board, and I thank all of those who applied for the position for their willingness to serve our community. Whoever you choose is walking into the most contentious moment any of us can remember in a relationship between the board and its teachers, counselors, and secretaries. And that includes the near strike of almost 12 years ago. It is simply a matter of respect. And the teachers of this community feel disrespected. Ridgewood was always a school district that prided itself as being at the forefront of education. We were the leaders, others followed. Teachers felt respected here and believed their voice had value. Those days are gone. Teachers now feel as if they are merely nickels and dimes, a revenue stream for this board, with money going out and more employee money coming back to this board to the tune of a $2.5 million tax placed upon Ridgewood teachers. This disrespect isn't felt through your words, it is your actions which speak much louder than your words. Actions like in March, when this board passed a unanimous resolution asking the New Jersey legislature to remove collective bargaining rights for teachers. Ms. Krause was not present for this vote, but the remainder of the board passed this resolution without any real discussion, and in a sign of excellent transparency, the resolution was never read into the minutes of the meeting and cannot be found anywhere on the district website. The agenda for that evening simply listed it as an NJSBA resolution. This resolution was passed while negotiating with the RA. If the community is wondering why contract negotiations were stalled, one must look to that resolution where the board stated they don't believe they should have to negotiate health benefits. But unfortunately, the community can't look at that resolution since it's not posted anywhere. I have a copy with me tonight. You've forgotten what you voted for. If anyone else would like to look at it as well. In addition, this board has also turned over negotiations to a highly paid attorney spokesperson, a lawyer that has no ties whatsoever to this community. In fact, he is a board member of Franklin Lakes, indicating where his loyalties truly stand. While those in the village elected remain silent at the table, this taxpayer-enriched lawyer collects more and more money by the hour. What incentive does he have to settle this contract? The longer this negotiations process takes, the more money he makes. After all, his school-age children don't attend schools here, why should he care? This disrespect continues to tonight. You look at the agenda for this evening, if you look at the 2015-2016 goals, the board is listed on tonight's agenda. Goal number 3, not goal number 1, not the first goal for this board, but the third of 4 goals is to, quote, continue, end quote, negotiating with the REA, not settle a contract, just, quote, continue negotiating. This statement is a clear indication that this board has no intention of settling a contract at any point this year. How are we not to take this as an affront? How are we not to feel disrespected when a contract settlement is not a goal of this board? And merely continuing negotiations is third on your priority list. This board has indicated that their financial hands are tied. That too is seen as disrespectful to teachers because we work here. We know what we're spending money on. This board has approved the purchase of new textbooks and workbooks, while at the same time spent hundreds of thousands of dollars for Chromebooks. This seems counterintuitive. Shouldn't textbooks and workbooks replace Chromebooks? Or shouldn't Chromebooks replace textbooks and workbooks? Especially since some of those textbooks are only about 5 years old. Every year, this board hires additional administrators. Since the last round of negotiations began, Ridgewood has added 5 new administrative positions. If that wasn't bad enough, this board then reduced each of their job requirements. So more administration are doing less work, not because their numbers have increased, but because this board reduced the number of teacher evaluations to be conducted this year. All when teachers and taxpayers were told we needed additional administrators because of the high number of evaluations. To add insult to injury, as the number of administrators goes up, buildings have seen the number of classroom teachers reduced by this board. This board also continues to outsource professional development, but we pay people on staff to create professional development. And lastly, for now, will the board be going to Atlantic City again this year at taxpayer expense? So to the community who is watching, this board has money. $2.5 million of it alone comes directly out of teacher paychecks. They just don't want to use it to settle a contract. Their priorities are elsewhere. I am here tonight to demand that this board make teachers a priority. A priority not through empty words, but by action. Settle this contract.
name is Jody Berwin. I'm a great learning advocate. And like Mary McCallie, I just need to support Jenny also in her element of position on the board. She's been over 3 years, not to use platitudes, but she is tireless. She's very interested in innovations in education. I think if we're not using her, I think things like Chromebooks and public library, high school library, middle school science classrooms would not have maybe been completed. She really pushed to help fund those items. So I just wanted to say I really back her. She's wonderful and she's doing better. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kathy Marshall. I live at 136 Linden Street, and I'm also here to put my support in for Jenny Smith Wilson as a candidate for the Board of Ed. For those of you who don't know, I have served on the Federated HSA Board for the last 4 years. This is my second year serving as president of that board, and I've had the pleasure of working with Jenny that whole time. She's been wonderful. If you had told me 4 years ago that we'd have a learning commons and that every middle school and high school student would be walking around with a Chromebook, I don't think I would have believed you. I think it's really due to her leadership of the foundation that we were able to pursue those initiatives together. And I think she's a phenomenal leader, great communicator, really dedicated to the issue of education here and elsewhere. So I just wanted to be here tonight to put my support behind her. Thanks.
Any other comments? Like, I'll close public comment, and I think that I need to address some of the things that were said tonight, Mike. You know, we share a different perspective, as you know. This board has always supported our teachers in so many ways. So I know at this point, we are in disagreement. But for most of the time, we have agreed on many of the initiatives that we have done in this district. Disrespected. There is no disrespect on this board for our teachers. We know the job that you do. There is financial concerns that we have. The $2.5 million is accurate. That is the state mandated phased-in contribution for health benefits. You finished the fourth stage. We are in a difference of opinion on our positions on that. We do have a lawyer, as we have had a lawyer for the past at least 4 or 5 negotiation sessions. Our lawyer has been part of our team. We are fact-finding right now, and we moved quickly to impasse almost within the first session, and we've informed the public of that. And we are in fact-finding. Hopefully, with a fact-finder, will help us to see resolution. But we'll go through the process, and while we're going through the process, this board will always be respectful of our teachers. Okay? Well, just not a dialogue. I know when this is, right? Well, that's not fair.
I'm talking at the table, you know, oh, they come here, maybe.
Well, I think that we can talk together, absolutely, but probably not in this situation at a board meeting. But I don't know if any other board members have anything they'd like to contribute. As far as our goals go, it is our third goal. Doesn't mean it's not a priority. We only have 4. We'll probably have 5 by the end of the night, since we have a finance goal as well. that goal states the board will continue to negotiate with the REA to settle a new contract. So certainly a settling of that contract is important to us as it is to you.
Change to goals to set the contract.
Well, that's up to the board if we would like to change that wording. This is the wording that we had looked at last time. But certainly, the goal is to settle the contract. We have to negotiate it to settle it.
Right now, the goal is just to continue to negotiate.
To continue to negotiate to settle the contract.
Continue to negotiate. Well, you already achieved your goal this year. Congratulations. Fantastic.
No, we haven't settled the contract,
The goal is simply to continue.
really not. But in any case,
Just a second.
so we're going to discuss those goals as we go through the evening. All right? In fact, we'll move to consent items now.
Should I pull out the,
Yes, why don't we do the goals first?
I'd like to present for consideration A, administration, A, attendance at conferences, B, administrations, except for the goals, C, curriculum and instruction, and D, human resources. I'll move.
I'll second.
Okay, are there any questions on all but the goals, for the move? Okay.
Ms. Rouse?
Yes.
Ms. Morgan?
Yes.
Mr. Longcom?
Yes.
Yes. Let's do the goals now. Yeah, we'll do HR afterwards, but let's go to the goals now. All right, so at our last meeting, we began to look at these goals. We gave some suggestions. I put them together. We also have a goal, finance goal, that has been worked on by both Vince and. Okay. So let's do the 4 that are on the agenda and then go to the finance. I'm sorry. On both, they are on page 4 of the agenda. You have them. And the finance goal is on the table because it was walked in today. Okay, so let's do those goals 1 through 4. The first goal is about the process that the district is going through for all day or full day kindergarten.
I'll also comment on over before, as the board will review the financial impact of implementing all the kindergarten. I'd like to say the financial impact of implementing all the kindergarten and finding the funding. So that's a very important issue we need to address. If we're going to do something, we're going to know this. We need to have funding decisions.
So it's, and the board will review the financial impact of implementing a full day kindergarten
And identify the funding.
and identifying funding. Is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. Let's make that correction then, or edit. All right, we move on to goal 2, which is about the facility study underway. Are there any wordsmithing for that?
Don't see any wordsmithing to it. I think it's important to identify again, this is a major issue facing the community. Engineering study has identified $40 million for the installation of the buildings. Not that our buildings are in bad shape, but that some of the systems are reaching the end of their lives. We have some safety recommendations, not too many, but some that would be enhancements to what we have. This is an important issue for the community. In fact, the $40 million doesn't grow on trees, as they say, and have to figure out another way to fund that. Probably the future bond issue. To do that, we have to care for this building to the community. So this is a very important goal for the board to address the financial stability and the stability of all of our facilities for the next 30 years.
Well, we are beginning, and we have Dr. Fishman's begun to try to schedule, we'll be scheduling the Facilities Committee to begin looking at this, refining it, talking with the architect prioritizing, and seeing really what needs to get done. And when it gets done with the timeline. So everyone's all right with that? All
Yeah,
right.
I just want to add that this goal is supported by that consultant study, which had a relatively detailed listing of required maintenance activities by school, by year, over a 5-year period. So we start this process with traction. I was very pleased to see that report, and I think we can move forward with confidence that we have a facility plan in place that will make a lot of sense.
Okay, goal 3. Is there a change the board would like to make on that?
Well, you know, this has been discussed at this table tonight. The wording that will negotiate to settle for the new contract. Mike chose to focus on the word negotiate. Sheila chose to focus on the word settle. I think we all have the same common goal, which is to reach a settlement as quickly as we possibly can.
Okay. And the 4th goal, on the 1-to-1 Chromebook, we are in agreement on? Okay, so why don't we vote on those 4 and then look at the finance? So we, I will move these 4 goals. Someone like to second that? Thank you.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, the finance goal. So the finance goal reads as, the board and the superintendent will develop an annual calendar Okay, finance goal is the board and the superintendent will develop an annual calendar designating the next year's school budget. This schedule will include early, before January 1st, participation of board members in reviewing detailed components of the budget. The board recognizes the tight financial constraints that a mandatory 2% ceiling on annual property tax increases places on its ability to enhance program offerings. The board also recognizes that even if the 2% constraints were not in place, we have an obligation to maintain the quality of the district schools in the most efficient manner possible, thus providing the taxpayers the greatest benefit. Accordingly, the board will work with the superintendent during the budget development process to identify possible options to reduce current programming costs.
I'll move.
Okay?
I'll second.
Yes.
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 Yes. And Jim, you had something to add?
I would offer another goal, which is really part of the financial, AE financial. I'll read it out. It's a simple goal. The board will direct the superintendent to build the 2016-17 budget based on assumption property taxes will increase by no more than 1%. I would offer that as a board goal that we should adopt.
Is there a second for that goal? I would second. Okay, let's have some discussion on that.
Sure, actually, there's background. Current school law, the Department of Education regulation says we have 2% increase in property taxes to utilize, not having to go through a vote for that exception each year. But our budget over the last few years, or last year being the only exception, has been pretty much at the 2% level. Last year was about 1.9%. I am concerned that having a 2% ceiling it's being taken as a 2% giving when we're setting the budget. I know Dan works very hard, understands the constraints he's under, and I understand the constraints he's under, but I believe that a sound management technique is to give your management team, which is Dan and his administration, a solid goal to look at other than this ceiling. Proposing 1% tax growth as our goal, and I would ask that the superintendent develop a budget on that basis. And he very well may come back to us and say, okay, if I develop this goal, this budget on this goal, I have a hard time meeting all the other goals that we've set, all the other things we've done. That's his proper function, to identify that, and then bring it back to the board to discuss and determine what we want to do. Corporate managements, not-for-profit managements, quite frequently, and virtually all well-run, have goals on the financial side set by the board of directors. The officers, administration of those corporations, and not-for-profits come back and tell their board, I can't do this for these reasons, or I can do this, and I'll need these resources to do that. So they give the board some flexibility to decide what these priorities are and how to handle it. We talked earlier about teachers. Teachers have some constraints on what we can pay them based upon the 2% ceiling. Having more flexibility gives us the ability to address them. We're talking about kindergarten. I'm very concerned with a wonderful idea of going to only kindergarten. We limited by the fact we don't have any resources to pay. Having this kind of a approach to the budget process, as well as another course, identify priorities which we can or not do as the board chooses in the adoption of the next budget. And starting off, and his only guidance on this, being there's a 2% ceiling in place from the state of New Jersey on how much he's taxed by. He's going to have that that's as far as he can go. We want as a board to have the best fiscal plan possible within the most carefully prepared plan. I think this kind of goal is the kind of structure he needs to prepare a budget. He can come back and tell us if he needs beyond the 1%. Just as he can come back and tell us now, can't do it for 2%, you have to file for a special fund. 1% against taxpayers and against the system, I think would be constructive exercise. There are other reasons for voting this is, you know, it's not something that.
Okay, it's an annual event.
It's not just every year, and I continue to vote this on here for 2 years.
Discussion.
I like the idea because I think it facilitates that discussion. We started the discussion earlier, it brings it into this forum, and I think it allows people greater insight into exactly what the difficulties are in crafting a budget at 2% and trying to do a budget that's simple and lower than that to, as Jim said, sort of free up a little bit of breathing room for some other things that we have on the plate here or on our wish list of things to do.
Well, from my perspective, I thought long and hard about this. As you know, Jim, you and I have had several discussions regarding this issue.
You said we agree to disagree.
Pardon me?
We agree to disagree.
Yes. The last statement of the board goal which we just adopted says the board will work with the superintendent during the budget development process to identify possible options to reduce current programming costs. I think that covers it. In my almost 4 years on the board right now, I've become convinced that the administration in this district is operating at a very high level of efficiency. I've witnessed through the course of those 4 years the administration make some very difficult decisions on what to cut, what to leave in. I also agree with the need for flexibility and being inflexible over these 4 years. So I believe that the goal as stated and just approved is sufficient.
I would agree with you, Vince, that I don't really see the need for putting this constraint. What I have seen over my years working with Dr. Fishbein, in particular, over the last 8 years, opportunities where we can find savings have really been pursued. And we can look at our energy savings, we can look at our telephone changes, we can look at carefully assessing the class sizes. This year, we had made some significant changes. We did have to reevaluate, and based on some class sizes and children coming in, and I know firsthand in my neighborhood, we had 10 houses turn over between March and August, and in each of those houses are 2 small children. Some who have come into Travell and some who will be in Travell over the next few years. So, but there are a number of initiatives that Dr. Fishbein has pursued, and our business office certainly has done. Alfredo, you're new with Angelo. There were opportunities that were looked at, certainly partnerships that have been designed to help them too. So I believe that our last sentence in the goal that we have approved allows us, as it does every year, to look at reducing any current programs, and we certainly have major things we're looking at this year, and I would like to maintain that flexibility.
Yeah,
So
I
would
would just like
not-
to add, which I'm not going to say, yes, I for one do not take the 2% as a given. I recognize that. I would love, more than anything else, to see us provide the kind of quality education that we all strive to reach and maintain without burdening the taxpayers anymore than we absolutely have to. That is in the top of mind all the time. And I would not take it 2% as a given.
Well, I would urge you to support this goal. It's right now, we're only getting the only guidance he has financially is 2% cap on property taxes. Now, I would not defer to Sheila or anyone else on Dan's ability, crazy Dan's ability to find savings. Some of the things he's done, but wonderful. Some of the cost savings we've done in energy. It's shocking how little we actually spend on energy costs. And that's great. I point to the fact that the last 3 or 4 years, 4 years maybe, we've had virtually 2% with one exception, property tax increase each year. And the board is not in possession of the detailed information, even though the few things we do to identify things to bring it below 2%. Which is why I strongly feel as a management tool, we should be giving the guidance, build a budget on a 1% property tax increase. Let's see what that does. Let's see what we have to do to beat that. And I'm sure he will. He's a very forceful advocate of seeing and advocating very strongly in private sessions and public sessions for various programs. He can explain to us why this makes no sense. And I think from a board perspective, build on what you said, to respect the taxpayers and try to keep this budget under control. We really should be setting a goal. It's a stretch goal for our management. It's not that we want to use a 1% property tax.
Well, just to carry on the dialogue that we have, again, just approved the goal will, in my view, give us ample opportunity through the budget process to examine alternatives, which we may select as viable alternatives in an effort to come in at a revenue figure below 2%. I'm not saying that I accept 2% as a given. I'm saying we have a goal as written to provide us ample opportunity, working together with the administration to see if we can identify further cost savings that we're willing to implement that would not impair the quality of the education. So I feel this goal is adequate.
To be clear, I'm not arguing that the only budget we vote for is one that has a 1% property tax. I understand there's room for the state to go to 2%, and we very well may have to do that, maintain the educational quality we want in Richmond. Do not tell our administrators it's our expectation. Some goal other than 2% property tax increase is by default only the board that creates 2% property tax increase.
You did, and I thank you for that. It's always a good discussion to have. you know, the realities as we talk about, and we have been talking about the realities of our budget and what drives this budget, with increases in our health insurance, increases that we have had to adjust to with our outsourcing of our custodial maintenance services because of the Affordable Care Act. We have had increases in that. As children move into the district who might require extraordinary services, that is always an unknown to us, but we know we have been tracking those numbers, and that adds to certainly our contractual obligations also add to it. So I would hesitate to tie the hands at 1%. And I feel too that this goal really states what our responsibility is and has been going forward, which is to identify the process, and we have a calendar that will even give more impact and more time for the board to work on the budget, since last year there was some dissatisfaction with that. We have Dr. Fishman has in Alfredo have identified a calendar that I think will allow for that to happen. So I'm going to close this discussion right now, and if we are at a tie, and I don't know whether we are, we may have to hold this until we have a fifth member, but let's see where we are.
But just to go back to one thing that you just said in reference to tying the administrator's hands, that's not, I don't think necessarily the point of what Jim is saying. It's not to tie their hands, it's to see if we get to that point of, tipping point, I guess it is, beyond 1%, to then explain what needs to be done and why to increase that, or what needs to be reduced and why to maintain it. I don't think it's an effort to tie anybody's hands. I think it's just an effort to have people use that as really as their goal, because if it's not your goal is something other than that, and it's by default higher than that.
I don't know. I think it's interesting because I don't see it this way. I see as we are putting that budget together, we are already looking often at a deficit, and we are then beginning to make adjustments and cuts through that budget, because we know that there are significant areas of that budget that are going up greater than 2%. Even though they're a percentage of the budget, but they're going up more than 2%, which then reflects upon the rest of the budget. So I think I said I was going to end this conversation. And here we go.
What I would agree with you. There's no need. I'm not trying to tie into the resolution. It's not going to tie it. I do recognize 70% of our costs are people costs. This is the salary benefits and other things. The big chunks of our budget, we have much unexpected. However, absorb the unexpected to do the things we want to do to move forward. New program introductions, we need flexibility. Setting no doing by default, setting it to 2%. I think that's the service taxpayers and the closure, which again is amazing team's abilities to build something. And it confers the board's role was that we're just looking at something that 2% is like that. As I've said many times, I think this is part of our responsibility.
Okay. So we are going to agree to disagree on this, because I think as we look at the board, if we look at the budget, we know 2% is 1.7 or $8 million. And we look at our expenses and where those expenses are going, and the cuts you have to make are usually in programming and staffing. And unless we are seeing a reduction in our classes, in our student body, overall, that would allow that, it would be difficult. That's
well, you cited the number of non-classroom, non-teacher things cuts in the years. Excellent program. Again, to see what you do. The more of those programs are viable, see the pressure on the administration.
Some of those programs are major losses.
Now, the gentleman mentioned all the board for the plan.
Am I voting for exactly what we have discussed now?
Yes.
Okay, we are done with our discussion.
We are done.
That is not being added to this.
We're voting on.
We're voting on whether we should have it now.
I would like to add it personally.
So that's a yes.
I guess.
Yes.
No.
No, so we'll carry that, that goal over to, October 21st. We will be, appointing our, or actually the new board member will be sworn in, and they will be, on fire at that point.
So, is that, do we need to revote this?
Not the whole,
No.
we passed goals 1 through 5, so it is,
Right, but do we need to revote this?
yes.
We do.
Well, it's a tie.
Well,
The tie is a no vote.
A
Tie
tie.
is a no vote, but it's brought up to vote again.
yeah,
Tie is a no vote, doesn't pass. But we can bring it back, I can bring it back up.
Okay.
Either way you want to construct it. All
I
of
think
you out
so.
there that are applying for the job.
It puts an awful lot of pressure on a brain.
You might be thinking.
I just wanted to enjoy all we enjoy.
Okay, we're on human resources now, I think, right?
Okay.
Should we vote on what was there? Did we do that? Yes. that's-
We voted on the, human resources, right?
I'd like to present for consideration D, human resources and finance.
Would somebody like to move that?
I'll second.
Did you move that, Chris? You did, yes, there you go. All right, is there any questions on finance or human resources? Well, oh, yes, thank you. Trying to move this along because I see what the time is.
I always look forward to the recitation.
You do?
Yeah.
You're
They're
very
very
kind.
important. The Ridgewood Foundation is on the list, of them, right? So
They absolutely are. I read to acceptance of restricted donation from Goldman Sachs and Company, a gift matching program of $3,300 to be used to update the science classrooms in George Washington Middle School. Pause HSA for $599.98 to be used to purchase a freezer for ice cream fundraisers and other ice cream events. RHS Band Association for $2,822 to pay for a U-Haul rental truck for marching band season. RHS Student Activity Funds for $9,000 to be used for Naviance expenses and to purchase guidance supplies. Somerville HSA $6,500 to be used for co-curricular stipends. And Somerville, and Target for $50 to purchase STEM equipment at Ridgewood High School. Acceptance of gift in kind from Boy Scout Troop Number 5 for VF Middle School of an outdoor classroom project by the north side of the track, picnic tables, plants, and shrubbery valued at approximately $3,700. 6 outdoor benches for the basketball court valued at approximately $1,100. And installation of a green screen constructed wall in room 213 BFBN valued at approximately $1,500. Wow, that's really generous. Acceptance of a gift in kind from Somerville Home and School Association of Ecology Central Pond upgrades and repairs valued at $6,000. Thank you for all the generosity of our donors.
And for the labor gift from the Boy Scouts.
Yes.
That's really amazing.
So we're going to go ahead and vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Approval of bills. Jim, it looks like you have the bulk of them, but
Yeah, it's very light this month. Good, I like this. I'll move the bills with my name against them, with the exception of, one bill for.
okay. And I move September 16th, Columbia Bank Online, bank check number 70912 through 71109, and September 11th, payroll transfer of 2.7 million and more. And I also move bill number 70791, which was the bill that Jim asked me to review. I second yours, Jim,
I second yours.
except for,
Second.
right, so maybe somebody can just second bill number 70791.
I'll second that bill. How much was it?
11,000 and something.
And
It was for books for our
And then who was the vendor?
books, fights, and the.
Okay.
Yes.
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 And remark that I accuse of that.
Okay, really quickly on, let's see if I can find it, legislative report. I can send it out to you. The Christie administration has scheduled, their listening tour on the Common Core state standards. There are 2 remaining hearings, one on September 28th and the other on the 29th. The one on September 28th is at Stockton College. And if you plan to speak, you must register the day before by 5 o'clock. And the second on September 29th, and both are from 6 to 9 p.m., is at Mercer County Special Services School District. And again, you must register the day before before 5 o'clock. If the hearings aren't convenient, there is an online survey that can be completed on your views on the Common Core state standards. On Monday, September 21st, the New Jersey Senate Education Committee will be holding a hearing on universal preschool. Currently, New Jersey requires preschool programs for low-income children. There are about 50,000 children in state-funded pre-K at this point. Senator Ruiz has called for the hearing in an effort to bring stakeholders together to talk about expanding early childhood education. Funding for the expansion is not available, but Ruiz wants to begin that conversation now. Ruiz also stated that lawmakers also have to look at full-day kindergarten. Full-day kindergarten is offered in about 2/3 of New Jersey districts. She noted that kindergarten is not required under New Jersey state law. But if you were looking at early childhood education, that is something to consider. Last week, Governor Christie signed a law establishing a training program to prepare New Jersey teachers for leadership roles, allowing them to mentor other teachers while continuing on as classroom teachers. They already mentor. I was confused by this law. The law establishes special endorsement on their teaching certificate. Teachers would have to complete 12 graduate credits or 180 hours of study in this leadership program, which still has to be designed. So they think it will be at least another year before the teacher leader program will be designed and approved by the New Jersey Department of Education. But they're already mentoring, right? So I was confused by that. Anyways, that's what's happening in Trenton as we speak. Board committee reports, I see that we have something from you, a couple from you, Vince?
Yeah, Finance Committee and the Fields Committee, the most recent meetings. One correction on the Fields Committee, I mentioned Tim Cook is the acting supervisor, athletic director. We dropped the acting, right?
Yes, he
Or
is.
we scratch out acting.
Okay. Since we've approved him.
Yeah.
Okay, acceptance of minutes. Are there, would someone like to move those minutes? I'll second them. Okay, all in favor of approving those minutes?
Aye.
Aye. All righty, we're done with the business part of the meeting. Well, just this is one.
Another public opportunity.
Yes, I think we, yes, we do. Following along, I was,
I didn't ask you a procedural question, I may allow further access.
just the way it's always been. We can open for public comment, and then from public comment, we will start the interviews of our candidates. We're running a little bit late. Please keep your comments to 4 minutes or less. Yes, go ahead, anybody who has a comment.
My name is William. I just have one question. I'm just curious, how many children in Ridgewood are receiving home schooling?
Just a handful of kids who receive homeschooling.
5, 10?
Under 5.
Last year, this year so far, kids are my office.
Or 4 of us?
Yeah, they just have to notify us, and, that's it.
Thank you very much.
Are there any other comments tonight?
Hi, my name is Stacey Marson. I'm a parent of a third grader and also a kindergartner at Somerville Elementary School, as well as a PK student who will be in kindergarten next fall. I've lived in Ridgewood for 12 years now, and surprised by what we pay in taxes and the size of the school budget. That full day kindergarten seems like wishful thinking for our town. While I applaud the effort of the board and Assistant Superintendent Cheryl West to once again explore the pros and cons of implementing full-day kindergarten in the district, I'm surprised by the recent quote of Ms. Rogan cautioning that such a program was for past years from being realized. Also, a comment by Mr. Morgan saying that he understands the value and importance of full-day kindergarten, but that it isn't a feasible option at this point in time. Not only does that sound extremely negative, but it also seems like you are just doing this analysis only to pacify the public temporarily, and you've already made up your minds that it's not going to happen. How is it that we can spend money to hire an independent consultant to analyze the district's classroom sizes and enrollment projections and weigh the pros and cons when we clearly know that the pros outweigh the cons in this instance? Not only do the pros outweigh the cons in this case, but Ridgewood is still behind the times in recognizing the need to implement full-day kindergarten, that it is one of the few towns in Bergen County and in New Jersey to still only offer half-day kindergarten. I have other comments, but I'm just going to jump to the end. You're talking about less than 1% of the school budget with no apparent negatives. It's time to stop talking about it, and it's time to start taking action. I was recently told that there's an analysis being done. However, we as the public will not hear anything until the spring, and that it has not been added to the Board of Ed's agenda, and most likely will not be until that time. How is it that we can wait that long when we know the benefits? And this year shouldn't be about exploring the options. It should really be about what do we need to do to implement this for next year. Landrock implemented full-day kindergarten at the start of this very school year after stating in just February of last year, so 7 months ago, that it was not going to happen. If they can make it happen in 7 months, Ridgewood can make it happen by the start of next school year, September 2016. We have the time and the resources to make it happen, and parents like me and others who are committed to seeing this initiative through. What I ask at this time is just that you can let us know that it will be on the agenda for every upcoming board meeting for this entire school year. We want this to be part of your focus for this year, and we would like to hear as progress is being made. Thank you.
is Sharon Halper. I live at 225 South Pleasant Avenue. I have two sons. One is currently in second grade in Somerville. The next one will be starting kindergarten next year. I'm a former teacher. I taught in Japan. I had an army of little people that had full day pre-K, starting at the age of 2.5 and going until they were 6. And I can tell you as a former teacher, the children that came into my classroom and were only participating in half of the day were dramatically behind the children that were there for full day. The children that were there for a full day had more opportunity to play, more opportunity to learn, and more opportunities to just be social. Those are very key elements that kindergarten children need to learn prior to going into first grade. If they don't have that, which is currently the case, they have a teacher who's providing lots of information into their little heads. They don't have enough time to play. They don't have enough time to be social. These teachers are fantastic. They have their hands tied. They can't do everything the children can. On top of that, I'd like to say I completely agree with everything that was said prior to me. Thank you.
Any other comments? We do have a process going on for full day kindergarten. I don't know, do you have your schedule?
We're meeting tomorrow morning at 9.
Okay. We established it as a goal and are committed to reviewing all the information brought to us by the committee. If, as I understand it, you're looking at presenting the whole issue and all of the information this spring. Right. So maybe we can get a tighter timeline after you meet. What we need, we're looking at other districts. Maybe you can explain some of what you're looking at.
But the data that we're collecting are projections of demographics, because we need to know what down the road, how many students will be coming into kindergarten. So we're looking at that. We're looking at models in other districts and how they've been able to do what they're doing, if they had to do the program already, even if they don't have an existing budget. So we're looking at sort of our peer districts in Bergen County. We're looking at different programmatic models. Some people are using curriculum programs, some people are developing their own, so we're looking at those at specific programmatic models. We're doing a study of our facilities to see if we could incorporate kindergarten within our existing facilities as they are, or if we would need to do capital improvements to our buildings. And then lastly, we'll be sending out surveys to parents, teachers, and to the community at large. So we're developing those surveys right now.
And as you go along, are you planning to, as you go along, report or to just do one? Why does the committee discuss how they want to present and then you get back to us? Yeah. If it's disjointed, sometimes that's not helpful. Yeah. And of course, there's the financial aspect, and that Alfredo is reporting back to you, right? But you need a model.
Discussing that, but it's very we don't want to come up with a number now because our demographic projections and our facility analysis is really what will drive that budget. So the gentleman has just started work, he's collecting data from all of our principals, he's doing visitations to all of the buildings to look at the facilities, and from that, from his work, I think you come up with a number now just based on doubling the number of FTEs we have in kindergarten. But once you put a number out that's in people's minds, it's scary. So we'd rather be accurate than scary. And so that's what we're doing.
And that consultant is, after he finishes his report, he'll be reporting to the board of health. So there will be opportunities all along the way, but I don't know every month. It will depend upon what information is collected. But our goal is to make a recommendation at the end of this year. The quote that you had of me was the question asked, are you going to have full day kindergarten this year? I said no. That if we need to study the process, we need to study, get all the facts and then determine when we can implement, if we can.
So as the other half of the quote came here, or let me just take you for a moment. I come to this full support of the idea of all-day kindergarten. My son's a kindergarten teacher, been a kindergarten teacher for 10 years. He teaches all-day kindergarten, and it's a wonderful experience for those children. One of the kind of parenting moments I had is that my son started teaching for a year or so. He said, you know, Dad, it's a wonderful job. I get to see 20% of the emotional development of these kids in my experience with them. It is a great program. Our program is very short. It is, I think the comment was made, 2/3 of the districts in the state have all-day kindergarten, 1/3 doesn't. And if we Ridgewood did not have all-day kindergarten, it's a very bad thing. At the same time, I'm also recognizing the finances of the district. As we talked earlier about the putting a cap on the property tax increase, that's meant to create room so we can look at other programs. We haven't created the room for it, we have no funding for it. So the parents who are rightly asking for all their kindergarten for their preschool kids, and Cheryl is doing a good job, and Nancy, the Housing Committee, are doing a wonderful job setting the alternatives. We already know the bill, and I'm probably the sponsor of the WFPEs, and add a little more of $1 million at least it's going to cost. The question I have, as a member of this board, fiduciary charged with coming up with a budget each year, where are we going to get the resources? Now, I would like to hear that before we've done all of the work, which is just not something that I think is going to be pretty easy to justify. The all-day kindergarten is a wonderful educational experience. It is a great indicator of future success. It is something that we as a community, Ridgewood, as a tradition of excellence, should be offering. We don't. All of those things are solid reasons why we should do it. But we should be discussing it as a priority. You heard I have to insert funding as an additional part of the goal, because funding is critical to achieving that. If we don't achieve that, we're going to be sitting here after this report gets together, and it's however many $1 million it is, unless we come with a funding plan, we're going to have to say that's a deferred goal that's going to be a couple years old. And that's not what you want to hear, and that's what I'd like to hear. I'd like to hear somewhere to fund it. If we have a plan,
we will.
If we have
Hey,
a
Jim,
plan,
and you're putting the carts before the horse, I believe. I mean, we are engaged in this study. Clearly, one of the defining statistics that will emerge from the study is how much it's going to cost. You want to determine how we're going to fund it before we know how much it's going to cost. I really think we should know how much it's going to cost and then identify possible opportunities to fund it. We're really talking about the same thing. It's just sequencing the process.
I don't disagree. We need to know the cost of finance that should actually move forward. I do think we can identify the funding source for that. Sheila's eloquently talking about when we were discussing the 2%, the budget has to be cut to get down to 2%. This is one of those priorities. If we're going to make a priority, let's figure out how we're going to fund it. Study it, come up with a number, by all means, is an appropriate thing to do. But in order to go, this crew is looking for, and parents around the district are looking for, we have to come up with a viable funding plan as a priority. Fine-tune it as we identify the cost. I don't think putting the cart before the horse, actually studying it without funding is putting the cart before the horse.
One of the things, Jim, one of the things that we're doing in our surveys of the community, and we have parents working on these surveys right now, is we're looking to see what this level of support is in the community for a program like this, and sort of if the need existed to raise the cap above 2%, would the community support that budget? And so when we know that, we'll know more about funding sources. Was it that big for us?
I mean, I think that our goal, as we've written, allows us to make those determinations when we have a reason. So there's a
I really want to emphasize, I don't think we're disagreeing. I just think we're talking about the sequence of it. Tell me how much it's going to cost, and then we'll figure out what we're doing. Instead of the other way around.
Okay. All right. It's so hard because this isn't really a dialogue. This is a public comment, and then maybe.
Just in terms of what Cheryl was saying, in terms of parents volunteering on the study, I'm just curious if somebody can provide the cost of a consultant.
It was $15,000.
$15,000. So this is an annual contract for this person?
No, just for one time.
One time.
One time, and how long is he contracted for to do this research for this year? For this,
It's not, it's a few months, right?
so you have that.
It's starting on a couple days.
And then we'll be making the presentation. Okay, and
And
then
that will all be on the agenda.
Okay, and then the follow-up question to that, the parents that you mentioned that are conducting surveys, who are they?
Oh, great.
Because I was on that committee that was selected for representing Somerville, and we've reached out numerous times to Noreen, I think it was the one who originally started the process with you, and we have been asking all summer, what can we do, we're ready for our season, and we have gotten radio silence. So we're ready, and we have a committee and a team in place, and people are, like, they want to help.
And
And
have a committee, we're working with a committee that has parents, administrators, and we're hoping to get.
So maybe we'll take this offline and you could talk with Cheryl.
I have your email.
that's fine. I just, for Ridgewood to have a budget of $102 million, I come from a corporate finance background, working for a long time at JPMorgan Chase. What is $1 million on a $102 million budget? We're talking about potentially 10 additional teachers with an estimated cost of a little bit over $1 million. Last year, the Board of Ed spent $1.2 million, I believe, on a generator for this very building.
That's not correct.
600,000 for technology improvements, which I agree with. Another $500 million for room renovations around the district, a driveway cutout at the EF, windows at GW. These were all in the presentation from April. We're talking about something that you guys all agree makes sense. And just to follow up on what Mr. Morgan said, just one last thing. It's 90% of New Jersey that have full day kindergarten. And in Bergen County alone, Ridgewood is one of 2 remaining towns out of 74 that do not have full day. So I just want to look at
All of the, all of what we've discussed will be in the agendas. So in the agendas are public and publicized private our meetings. But you can always email us if it's going to ask if it's going to be on the agenda. We will know by the Friday before the next board meetings. I'm not sure of your calendar. Okay, we are going to take a 2-minute break. And then we're going to start with our interviews candidates. And for the candidates that are here, thank you for your patience. I know we're running a half an hour late.
They don't have to hang for this one.
This is the webcast. So, first interview we started 15 minutes late. The more we have a link online, if they also see the okay. No, they came to me before the meeting. The device, the converter problem. I went to the end, they have a different one, so we couldn't fix it. But we will notice somehow, but it's too late. Okay.
There's no sound on TV.
It's 33. 5.
Well, we'll post it on the website, but
That's my favorite.
Okay, are we all stretched a little bit? Are you staying?
Excuse me, you guys know I wanted to do the feed or whatever? Yeah, just so you know the TV is happening. So now, we have the issue with the equipment today. But when we do it tomorrow, we'll put the link out. Okay, so it'll be on YouTube, right? Or, yeah, it's gonna be a YouTube one, but it'll be like, okay, yeah, we're gonna have a part we make the video later. Okay, but it's gonna be up from the beginning. Awesome, thanks. Just like, usually we do that in 24 hours. We'll make them more and put it up. Awesome. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm ready to stay on this and I use your feed all the time. So
We're going to start again. Thank you again for your patience. We started this meeting an hour early, but we should be at this place at 7:30. Obviously, we have failed in that regard.
Thank you.
In any case, I would love to invite, first of all, let me say that we received 8 applications for this one board seat. And, you know, thank you to the community for embracing this opportunity. We have 7, one decided that he was not going to pursue it, so we have 7 candidates that we'll interview tonight. And I'd like to invite Nicole Richards up to the table. You'll sit alone with that microphone. Don't be intimidated. We're really a nice group.
This isn't intimidating at all.
That's good. We all have your applications in front of us, and you did receive the questions, right? I did. Great. And because we have this plethora of candidates, these 7 candidates, we've asked that we try to keep it to 25 minutes, 20 minutes if we can, so we get a sense of this, of you and your interest in joining us. And you've been at board meeting tonight, you've seen a little bit about board meetings, and sometimes it's an empty room, and sometimes it's not. So always interesting. So we'll start with you sort of introducing, and basically that first question is what prompted you to submit your application to become a member of the Board of Education?
Thank you for having me here and for accepting me as a candidate. It is very exciting to be here and very interesting to hear the important discussions that are going on right now. My primary interest in the job really goes back to 4 years ago when we moved to Ridgewood. We moved from Virginia, and we specifically moved to Ridgewood for the schools. I have 1 in elementary, 1 in middle, and 1 in high school. And really, we could have lived anywhere, almost in the world, based on our jobs. We did research. I do have an office in New Jersey, and we chose to move to Ridgewood for the education system, for the reputation, and for how well I knew my children would be prepared for the world of coming here. So we did a lot of research before we chose this town. So my interest in the job really stems from supporting what the board is doing in terms of developing and continuing their reputation in education. I've had a long career in the private sector, and I have spent my career traveling around the globe and working in the chemical industry. And something has always been missing for me, and I had the opportunity in my career to step back a year ago and moved to part-time. And really what I wanted to do was pursue more of an opportunity to give back to the community, and specifically in education. So when this opportunity came up, I was thrilled with the ability to talk to you about it and to pursue it. You know, I'm interested in the strategy of the board from the long-term, short-term goals. I've heard tonight what's on the table for this year, and I feel, as we'll talk later, some of my history supports what you're trying to accomplish, especially this year and in the long term. I also, one of the things that struck me specifically, Ms. Bergen, when you had written, I just found this in doing some research, I hadn't seen it before, but it was last year, the testimony before the Senate Budget and Appropriations Committee, that letter you wrote about the finances, and what has happened to our budget and support was really eye-opening to me. I was not aware, granted I haven't lived in Ridgewood in a long time, but you know, to me that really opened my eyes to understand the situation we're dealing with from a financial perspective. And really the support I want to lend to the board and the community to, you know, wrestle with these issues that are faced with.
Great, thank you. Is there any, well, we've begun to talk about, you know, the financial, is there other things that interest you about this position?
You know, when I looked at, certainly the committees that the, Ms. Leonard, the committees that she was in, thinking that, you know, that would be a logical place to start. The calendar, curriculum, finance, legislation, negotiations, policy, future evaluations. In fact, all of those are interesting to me for different reasons. The issue that we're dealing with the educators in the system, you know, it's very, you know, contentious at the moment, it sounds like, and I know there's a resolution there, and I enjoy problem solving, I enjoy difficult situations, and that's an important decision that needs to be made and resolved. Along with the financial, I just find that, you know, very, very interesting to understand where the money's coming from and how we're spending it, you know, of that type. And then, you know, what I won't call smaller issues, things like the calendar, certainly, you know, all the elements that are involved in those committees are interesting to me for different reasons.
Yes, you know, we'll probably realign some of the committees since we haven't done it, but yeah. What do you see as the duties and responsibilities as a board of education member? I know you're not on, but what do you see as
I mean, certainly, you know, I see what the requirements of the job were stated in there in terms of being a member and sitting on the committees that are requirements and attending the board meetings. But really, when I look at it holistically, everything starts with the strategy. What's the long-term strategy, which is set by the board, translated down into what are the short-term goals and requirements, and then executing against that. So, you know, I see the board as an integral part in setting all of that from the top strategy down to the execution of it.
Personally and professionally, you know, what would you bring to the Board of Education and your attributes?
Sure. So in the private sector, I've had a history of leading groups and businesses through challenging times, through doing what I just mentioned, you know, starting with typically the way we've done it is setting 5-year strategy, done it from the other side. So I've been doing it to appease the board of directors from the company's perspective. So developing those 5-year strategies, building local teams, making sure that we've got the right people in the right place to execute against that, setting budgets, setting goals, and then executing against that to achieve those goals. So when I look at, you know, what I've done throughout my career, some of the key things I think that I bring to the table is a strategic mindset, the ability to communicate clearly with the appropriate stakeholders, negotiation skills, and actually realize how relevant that might be until tonight. But I've done that quite a bit in my career. And then action-oriented valuable results. So kind of to summarize that, I feel that
I'm a collaborative leader with a drive to establish meeting objectives and have the way I'd like to do this, and certainly I would not be in charge of this in this environment, but to be able to have those passionate debates and then come to the end of it with clear and concise resolution to those debates. It's important for me to hear people's opinion before we get the data, before we can make those decisions.
So, in your professional involvement, and tell us a bit about how that will translate into, being on a board of education.
So some of the things that, well, currently in the role that I have right now, I'm a communication director for the company. So being able to help facilitate communication both within the community. So I know one of the goals is to hear the voice of the staff and the educators, and then be able to translate our objectives as a goal as a board to the community. So I feel like I've got the background and experience to be able to do that. I think being able to set budgets and establish goals and objectives to meet those translate from what I've done in my career to what I could offer to people.
And so, in your professional life, in your community, have you been also doing community work, or?
So, a couple things that I've been doing. So, as I mentioned, really in the past year is when I really started to want to get more fully involved. So, things that I've done from a community, start off as some small volunteer assignments, things like Friends of the Library Committee, Friends of the Music Committee. Took a trip to Cambodia with the Cambodian group to support the Ridgewood schools. We started up the first Recycle a Bicycle event at GW, which was a lot of fun. I led the 7th grade community service project at GW, and I'm currently the assistant treasurer at Orchard. So those are a few of the roles that I've had just in the past year.
You may call a couple of vice
But
You may call out a couple of vice
I will, we're gonna run it again this year.
There you got one bike, right?
I got 3.
I mean, and just as a quick aside, it's a great program that we started up from scratch. We didn't know how successful it would be, but we wanted a community service project for the GW 7th graders. So we got about 75 bikes that we were able to recycle within the community, and we also raised, a small amount of money to donate to charity as well.
Was it just last year, the Cambodia trip that you went on?
No, the group didn't go last year, it was 2 years ago.
Do you see any limitations or conflicts of interest with serving on the board?
I don't. I think that from a professional and a personal standpoint, to me, there's no conflict of interest. Look at what the requirements are to ensure that there's nothing that would prevent me from making fair assessments on any of the issues that are presented.
Do any of the board members have, these were our set questions, but if there were any follow-up questions.
You mentioned you moved here 4 years ago. You have a student at the high school, middle school, GW, and one at Orchard. I'd like to hear about your experience and observations with regards to the district since you've been here.
We moved here specifically because of the school district, so I would have thought pretty hard to impress because we have high standards moving here. And the high school in particular, I am blown away with the options that the kids have from a learning perspective. I look at the course catalog, the options they have, and the speed is phenomenal. What these kids in high school have the opportunity to learn. I'm so impressed. In fact, when we moved here, I had a few neighbors that were sending their children to private school, and I'm thinking, this is a private school, like, we moved here for this school. So I've been very impressed, specifically with the high school. Just one small comment on the Orchard community is another amazing community. So I've been very happy and impressed with the experiences that we've had.
Thank you.
Christine?
I just wanted to know if you had been following our budget process over the past several years, and if you had up to Board of Education meetings.
I haven't closely followed the budget process. I just started getting involved in some of the board meetings throughout the course of last year, and I was on a parent, actually I was representing GW, but it was a committee that they asked for parent involvement in setting a long-term strategy, so I was part of that. And I've attended some of the board meetings. I have not been following the budget as closely as I would like. It's something that, regardless of whether I'm accepted into this position, which I certainly hope I am, but it's something I am passionate about and will be more involved in understanding.
Did you have?
With the development of the citizen, you're probably aware of looking at having over 2% cap on property taxes. How do you see that affecting the ability to function as an overseer of the budget, given the mission excellence we have here?
It's something that I need a lot more data, I would say, to really fully answer that question. You know, I could express an opinion, but I don't feel that would be fair for me to do because I don't have enough data to be able to do that. I certainly heard the debate earlier about what the opinions are on the cap, and certainly would want to understand some of the data through my own research for me that.
Great. Okay, any other? You have some questions for us?
I just wanted to understand a little bit about two questions, I'll say. I know you're the question. One is, how do you measure success as a board?
I think we measured it. Should I try to do that one? Okay, we measured it in a number of ways. So we will be looking at how our students do on state tests. But we also are looking at SAT scores, we're looking at AP scores, we're looking at what's happening in the classroom, we're looking at, we have a parent satisfaction survey that we do every other year, and we are looking at the parents' perspective on how they see what's happening in the classroom, how they are their children feeling safe, are the children being engaged, are your children, you probably saw that survey. So we look at those results. Certainly we have presentations in front of the board about new programming. When we initiated the one-to-one Chromebook initiative last year, we had multiple ways of looking at the success of that, with presentations with part of it, where our staff is giving us feedback as to how it's going in the classroom, certainly our administrators. So there's a whole host of things that we're looking at to look at the well-being of our children educationally, emotionally, physically, and how they are doing, interacting in the school climate.
Yeah, I might add, through the auspices of the New Jersey School Board Association, we have an elaborate board self-evaluation exercise that we go through every year. So we do an introspective, if you will. I must say we give each other pretty high marks.
We probably give the board as a whole not such great, not as high, but ourselves.
Okay. Thank you. And then my second and last question, just if I can understand the process a little bit about the decision-making process for how you go about selecting the candidate and when the decision will be.
Okay, so we will, the interviews are tonight. The board will decide whether we'll follow up on some of the references because everybody gave us references. And then on the 5th of October, we'll be making a decision, taking a vote on the candidate who will fill the open seat. And then on the 21st of October, that candidate will be sworn in and have to swear to abide by all the state and federal laws and the Constitution. And then you will take the position on the 21st to join the board. Right? Thank you.
Sure, you might actually expand on that. Let me ask a question to one people. They had a point, we want to talk about, some mic did tonight, and I suggested they would come to our open mic comments period or drop emails to the board members.
Absolutely.
All.
We have gotten letters already, recommending and we've heard tonight, but certainly, people are welcome to email us their thoughts.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nicole.
Thank you.
I appreciate you spending the time and also being cognizant of our time schedule.
Absolutely, I appreciate the opportunity.
Our next candidate is Michael Zuckerman. It's Michael's here. Of course you're here. We saw your picture in the paper. I saw it.
Time wasn't on purpose.
Here we go. So I think I know a little bit about you. Well,
Thank you.
so you saw the process. We have 20, 25 minutes to receive the questions in advance, and hopefully you gave thought to those. And so we'll start off with what prompted you to submit your application.
Sure. My wife is a lifelong resident of the exception when she left to go to college. When we got married, we started having kids. We moved to Bergen County. When we moved to Bergen County, it was an obvious progression for her to move back to Ridgewood. In fact, it was a demand to move back to Ridgewood when we got married. We had 3 children. I had 1 in high school and twins who were in middle school. When my twins were born, we didn't have a choice, and we needed the help of our parents to move back to town. That was 12 years ago. I grew up in a political family. My father was a board of education member of the town that I grew up in. He was the mayor. He was on the town council. And he did some wonderful things throughout the service that he did. Plus, he was my baseball coach my entire life. I also have a grandfather that grew up in local politics. He was the president of his temple. He was the mayor of his town of Lauderdale. So I was the little kid when my father was being sworn into the board of education in 1978. That was standing by his side, holding on to him and watching him go through this whole process.
And you are still interested.
And I'm still interested, crazy as it sounds. Times were obviously very different back then, but my father passed away back in 2008. And one of the things that I asked him before he passed away, and I was lucky that I got to spend time with him before he actually did pass on. And I asked him out of all the things that he had done, what was his favorite? Because he volunteered. I never saw him. He volunteered all this time away. He had a very vibrant career. And I asked him what his favorite was, and he said the board of education, because that's what made the most change. And that rung true for me. So at that point in time, I knew there was going to be some point in my future when this was going to happen. It was just a matter of when. And growing up in today's era of helicopter parents that are hovering over their kids and trying to get as involved, probably too involved in everything that they do on a daily basis, it was difficult for me early on. But now that they're a little bit older, I'm like at that stage where I actually can make this job.
Thanks. So is there anything in particular that interests you? The whole general thing about the board, is there anything in particular that you're interested in?
That being said, I want to state from the beginning, I'm not a politician. I'm not an educator. I'm a business guy. So I look at this from the taxpayer's perspective, a father, and a businessman. That's where I'm coming from. So all my decisions and everything that I do in life are all based on those 3 things.
Taxpayer, father, and
a businessman. I have to be able to allow my family to live in this wonderful town. So when it comes to what I'd like to accomplish from being on the board of education, I think I come at it from a different perspective. First and foremost, like I said, I'm a taxpayer. And I'm the guy that bridges every time his taxes are raised. In fact, it doubled since I've lived in this town for 12 years. But that being said, I've got 3 kids that have excelled beyond my wildest dreams in school. I didn't have a love of my elementary school, middle school, or high school. I ended up getting as far away from that area as I could when I went to college. And my children, on the other hand, absolutely 100% love going to Haas. They're embraced in the community of the My son has been to board meetings. My older son is a member of the calendar committee because he was the student council president at DF. And he's excelling in high school as a freshman already. So coming at it from that perspective and understanding that when at some point in time in the future, in 6 years to be exact, I'm going to have 3 kids in college at the same time. Really haven't quite figured that part out yet.
Yeah, it's tough.
How do I prepare them?
Just let it happen.
So how do I prepare them?
It'll be all for you.
Look, I went to a private university, I went to an expensive school, and I hope that my kids have the same opportunity to do that. So what can I do today, what can I be a part of that can help guide them and help shape them is really what interests me about being a board. So not looking at any specific committees or any specific role within the board, but being a part of this process and making them proud in the interim is really what I do.
What do you see as the primary duties and responsibilities of the board?
First and foremost, it's all about the students. When it comes to the Board of Education, when it comes to the teachers in the classrooms and the administrators that are all involved, at the end of the day, there's a student. There's a student that needs to excel, that they're setting up for whatever's going to happen within their future. We're setting them up for their future. So in my mind, the Board of Education is about the students. That being said, there's a fiscal, obviously a large fiscal component to this as well, but also a community component. You're part of a team. It's not an individual on the board that's going to make a decision. If we that were selected, I'm not coming in saying I'm going to change the way that the Board of Education spends its money or does different projects. But that being said, you have to look at it from a team perspective. What is going to be the best for the students, keeping in mind while maintaining your budget? I remember vividly the day that Chris Christie got elected. When he went after the teachers associations in the state, it boggles my mind how that whole situation played out. That being said, there's a role for the Board of Education, and that role is to advocate for the students. And that's what I think when it comes to what your actual responsibilities and duties are. And then getting the best education for your tax dollars. It comes down to within the budget, you've got to stay within that budget, you've got to figure out the programs that are going to best suit those students. That's how I see it.
What personal or professional attributes would you bring to the Board of Education? How do you see it enhancing our operations? Do that?
Sure. So I work in an environment of healthcare economics. I work for a medical device company. I've been doing this for about 17 years. Medical device companies have been beaten up through Obamacare and through other programs throughout the years, and budgets are decreasing, not increasing. Hospitals are spending less money, and hospitals are charged with improving patient outcomes and decreasing costs, which seems counterintuitive. So from where I am in my role in my company, we're trying to develop a new business. We're trying to bring alternative solutions to hospitals, new technologies to physicians and hospitals. And in doing that, they need to spend less money. And it's very difficult for companies such as mine to innovate on less money, which means that healthcare and what we're able to provide our citizens is actually going to decrease, and we're going to be less competitive in the global landscape. So that being said, I go into hospitals on a daily basis, and speak with physicians, and speak with administrators, and negotiate deals that try to be unique in finding ways to, again, bring innovative new products into hospitals and allowing them to spend less money. So all in all, that's a long way of saying that I negotiate, I sell and market on a daily basis. And I think that's what I'd be able to provide the board.
Your involvement, I read your desk, right? So,
Yes.
So that would mean you'd be able to be in Jamboree too.
It's my wife's term. She's the one that has the voice.
Just kidding. But your past or current involvement in professional community,
Sure.
Ridgewood, 12 years.
So I've been here for 12 years. From day number one, I've coached everything that I could possibly coach for my kids. Again, for me, it's all about the children. I'm actually still coaching my 12-year-old, but I've taken the jump from coaching rec sports and travel sports, which is a unique process to begin with, especially when I deal with the more developmental teams. I've been involved in Dad's Night from the day that I was able to be involved with my children in my cause. Dad's Night for me was a really unique experience, other than going up on stage and making a fool of yourself. I looked at my time in Dad's Night, tried to figure out how I could best spend my time. And it's a challenge because it's a big time. But that being said, I looked at it from a fundraising perspective. And I got involved in the advertising sales. And that's what I took away from Dad's Night. the book, similar to Jamboree, similar to my son is in the band program right now at the high school, we put together an advertising book that creates most of the revenue that we can then provide to the schools, and they can spend on projects that the Board of Education unfortunately is unable to fund. So I got involved in that, and I was proud to say that during the 2 years that I did that, we raised $40,000 during each of those 2 years, and we're able to provide things like whiteboards and basketball courts and other wonderful things to low cost and stuff. That's probably what I'm most proud of.
Great. What roles have you taken with, well, you already talked about that, the roles that you've taken in those organizations. And so how would that translate then maybe into being on the Board of Education? Okay, you see that?
Yeah, again, I can't say enough that I'm not a politician, I'm not an educator, but I'm all about the students. Everything that I've done from going up on stage at Dad's Night to coaching my child and this development travel team that he's on, it's all about the kids. It's about giving them the best experiences they can get. You know, I want my children when they're up and gone to remember the times that I spent on the fields with them, when I was actively pulled up on stage. And hopefully when I'm sitting on the Board of Education and doing other wonderful things within this community, I want them to remember those things so that they pass that on to their children. That's what's important to me. So what attributes do I have that I think I can bring to the table to make it a little bit different? Again, I negotiate on a daily basis. I sell and market on a daily basis. That's what I do. That's kind of who I am within my career. I grew up thinking I was going to be a politician. Kind of later in life, I guess you could say, starting to take those steps towards that eventual goal that I had. That being said, I can't get out of my mind the fact that I want to be here to help guide my children towards making the best decisions and solutions that they can. And those goals in mind, those are the attributes that I have.
Do you see any limitations or conflict of interest in taking on a board position?
None whatsoever.
Board members, do you have any follow-up questions?
You mentioned you have one in high school, and you have twins, which I presume are in middle school, is that right?
Yes, sir.
I asked the previous candidate to describe their experience with the schools. Since I've been here, I'll ask you the same question. How do you feel the school district is operating on behalf of your kids? And I'll add on one other thing. Is there anything over the years that you have felt could be done better, or it has been solved?
So learning is very different today. I recently took a course in healthcare marketing at the University of California, Arizona. And I was floored by how digital it was. There was no interaction with the professor, everything was via email. It was extremely different than the way that I grew up. That being said, my children have embraced every aspect of their education career so far. They love class. Dr. Senadinger is an amazing individual. The teachers that they've experienced throughout their time within the elementary system, from how they behave in the classroom to the activities that the school puts on outside of the classroom, to the playground and how they interact with other students. It's been beyond an amazing experience. It's more than I could have wished for my children. If there's anything that I could say that I would change throughout the process, and by the way, this holds true for BF and for the high school as well. But if there's something that I could change, it's in the process of being changed, and it's how does the school keep up in today's times of technology. The Chromebook initiative might be a part of this solution. They all came home with their Chromebooks, and they were all very excited. Then I went to the back to school nights, and I spoke to a lot of teachers about how they're implementing this process. And some of them are embracing it, and some of them are really confused as to how they're doing it. So that being said, I think from a technology perspective, and how does Ridgewood stay competitive? I mean, we all see the rankings. My ultimate goal is that my kids are going to come out of the school district and come out of the system and do wonderful things and get into great colleges, hopefully with scholarships. But staying competitive in today's environment of technology is something that really interests me, because I got to tell you, me, being a student 25, 30 years ago when I was in college, and going through a course, an online course recently was unreal. And that's what my children are used to. How we can encourage that and promote that is really the way the future is for us.
Jim?
You mentioned Governor Christie.
Yes.
Some of the changes that went into the way schools are funded and and before we got to the 2% cap, how do you see school boards acting and operating?
Similar to the last candidate, I have not done enough research to be able to answer that question at this point in time. But that being said, I have a friend that I went to high school with who is a superintendent. I have multiple friends around boards of education throughout the state. And they're all facing the same question that the board is facing today, understanding in the current negotiations, how to handle that. It's something that I want to become involved with, but I'm no position to answer that.
And my question is, I think probably going to be standing for everybody. Have you been, prior to this being rising, were you paying close attention to what was going on here in terms of our budget process and regular attendance at meetings or watching us online? I mean, what really piqued your interest now? If there was no opening right now, would you run for a seat that year from November?
So I'm going to answer the last part of that question first. This for me is a great opportunity to see how the board works. I see how campaigns are run throughout the years. I've been involved with friends that run local seats in the county, in different towns throughout the state. So understanding how to run an election is something that I've been involved with since I was a kid. I remember handing out flyers in retirement communities for my father when he was running for local elections as well. That being said, would I have come to this board meeting today to seek an vacancy? I think the vacancy is what prompted me to do what I'm doing right now. I knew there would be a point in time when I was going to do it, and I knew that as my kids got older, that's when I was going to be able to take that jump to trying to get involved with the Board of Education, and I knew it would be the Board of Education first. So I can tell you with all my heart that if I'm not selected for this position at this point in time, you will see me again at some point in the future. So this is new, this is the end.
As a village council, hopeful perhaps?
Yes, please.
Do you have any questions for us?
You answered most of my questions with the last candidate, but I would ask, what do you think the ideal candidate looks like? That's a loaded question.
Oh, yes. Well, I think that when because I've been here a long time, when I look at the candidates, you know, it's important, the whole agenda item, that they're not coming in with a set agenda. That it really is about every single student in this district. So we're looking at the 5,750 whatever students that we have here in every grade, whether they're here or out of district. So certainly a financial awareness and knowledge of budgets and ability to communicate are all important aspects of a board member to me.
You know, with years and years of hiring people, I always used to say I look for three things in a candidate. One, native intelligence, for which there's absolutely no substitute. Two, the ability to produce and get things done, meet deadlines. And three, very importantly, the ability to work with other people as a team. I view this in very much the same way, with the added aspect of the fact that we really do need to have a passion for educating our children.
Working as a team is very important. Despite sometimes we disagree with working, we all generally respect each other and respect their opinions. We're willing to listen to each other's opinions and make collective decisions.
I came for the salary.
I'm still waiting for a parking. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, our third candidate up now is Terry Hansen. Oh, thank you so much. Is anybody else filling in here? Or was that Welcome, Terry. And so you heard our preface that you've got the questions in advance. And we're looking at about 20, 25 minutes to do this, to go through the questions and have you ask us any questions that you might have. So we'll start with what prompted you to submit your application?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for this opportunity. What prompted me to submit the application was several things. I'm a parent that has lived in the district for 22 years. I have 5 children. My husband and I have 5 children. Sorry, family share in common here. We're still standing there. So, my oldest daughter is actually a TA, Richard, and Rachel's graduated college. Matthew is in college, Patrick, and then Timothy is at high school. So through the 20 years that I have been in the school district, I have been involved, very involved, depending on the year. We have a tiny, not as much, but always involved parent. As they grew up and were in all the schools, I attended HSA meetings, involved in different committees, community events, attended board meetings, followed the budget, followed what was happening on a state and federal level. And I've come to the point where I feel it's an opportunity for me to service the community and to come in and see what can be done working with the board. As I know most of you, and I think most of you know me from different events and over the years.
Thanks. Is there anything in particular that interests you about this position?
Well, I mean, what interests me about the position is the opportunity to make a difference for the community. I do love Ridgewood. Maybe it's not the right word, love, but it's just been an amazing experience to live here. The schools are fantastic, and like other candidates and certainly many families, we moved here for the schools. I also love the lifestyle. I love being able to walk everywhere, live on a fairway, so all the kids can walk to all the schools, 2 blocks each to Trevelle, or the high school. So that's been a blessing. I mean, there's just so many blessings about the community. I love running into people at football games. I love being out. It's just an amazing place to live and to raise your children. But really what concerns me, and saying all of that as a kind of a backdrop, is we're looking at the budget. And the money that we have right now budgeted for education at $100 million. And following the budget over the years, I'm very concerned about the loss of local control for our district by the push from the state and now the federal government on how we run this district and how we spend our money and the decisions that we make. So that has been, I think all the decisions we make obviously have to come from a budget. I mean, we look at things, we have wishful thinking on many things. Some we can implement and some we cannot. And I will agree with some initiatives and I disagree with others. But that's not the point. The point is that we, as a local district, make those decisions and are able to operate our schools the best that we see fit for our students. I also looked at our administrators and our teachers, which I think are top notch. And I do see some of the implications of the state and federal government impacting not just the students, but the teachers as well, and the administrators. So these are the reasons, a big concern. But I think everything kind of funnels back to the budget and the impact it has on us to operate our schools.
What do you see as the primary duties and responsibilities as a board member?
Well, I have served on several boards, and I think the primary responsibility is, to kind of oversee and help set some direction and vision. Again, listening to the other candidates and going through these questions myself, everything kind of does central back to the budget. But the budget being, what is best for the students, what is best for our community, how do we maintain a tradition of excellence? You know, working, Vincent said, working as a team. You know, I'm extremely passionate, I'm a very opinionated person, I mean, I have strong opinions about things. See Jim, smart, no,
We might have heard it before.
But that being said, and again, working with other boards, you know, you do have to work together, so I do get that. But you know, again, I think what my main role is to service this community. You know, I do have, I've done a lot of research on the state budget and the impact it has on this district, as well as the federal budget. And there are many districts within New Jersey that are impacted differently by the state budget. My number one concern is for Ridgewood, New Jersey. I do have very strong opinions on how, for example, the ag districts spend their money. I have a strong opinion on how the state is running Newark, Camden, Patterson. But those districts are not Ridgewood. And I do not believe that we have to make decisions based on those districts. So, you know, again, I think everything cycles back to, you know, to budget. How it impacts us.
Personal or professional attributes that you bring to the board, and how do you see enhancing our operations?
Well, personally, I think my involvement over the last 20 plus years in the district are very, you know, will help to enhance what we can do here on the board. You know, from community involvement coaching, which I'm still doing, which I love. I'm actually doing high school, which is
that hockey?
Actually, no, well, I'm not sure, but I'm doing the travel with soccer, which I am so pleasantly surprised how much I'm enjoying that. But, you know, so personally, I have all my involvement has given me insight and understanding and an opportunity to work with some really amazing people, both parents, teachers, and administrators. And that's been a privilege on many levels. So I appreciate that. And so that's given me some dimension. Having 5 kids has given me another dimension in education. I have to tell you, I have 5 distinctly different rooms. My middle 2 look very much alike. When they were little, they're both twins. They are total opposite learners. So those type of being involved in activities with them and involved in schools. So personally, I can bring some of that to the table in a broad perspective to benefit the community. Professionally, my husband and I run a small engineering firm in Hocus. So it keeps me busy. I have to be structured, not always as structured as I'd like to be. I have, as I said, professionally been involved and served on boards, have overseen budgets on programs. I have run a swim, dive, and tennis program for many years. This summer, it's almost like let's say competitive teams, kind of umbrella under the camp. So professionally, I have, obviously I do contract negotiations. Actually, I do everything from taking out the trash to contract negotiations and everything in between because we're a small business. So, so it's been good. I have dealt with deadlines and problems with clients, problems with things that need to get done, or just customer service, etc. So I think those combinations will help the service.
So you talked about some of your professional and your community organizations. Is there anything else you want to add about what you have done in the community?
Well, I think having my resume. I mean, I've done a lot of different things: fundraising, jamboree, coaching, HSAs, all kinds of volunteering. I was involved in the strong teacher evaluation. I've also been very involved again, and I think this is it's been very interesting, but very eye-opening in tracking, the budget and looking at all the way back to the state and federal government. So I think all this involvement, and will be, a great contribution that I can bring to the table.
Is there anything in particular in your involvement that you think will, help you to prepare for your service, that helped you prepare for your service on the board? Anything in particular that you can point to?
Well, in particular, I do think the fact that I have been able to do quite a bit of homework on some of the things that I believe are directly impacting this district. And I think the implementation of Common Core, I think the park testing assessment, I think the state mandates, the unfunded mandates, which are many, 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 that continue to push down upon us. I think this knowledge will be helpful for this district. Again, with a $100 million budget and with many things that we would like to do for the community and for our students, I think there's an elephant in the room that many of us don't talk about. And that is the fact that some of the ability to make decisions at a local level are being taken away from us. And I feel very strongly, and I thought about, should I say this here, should I say it, but it's an honest disclosure. I'm extremely concerned about the continued loss of local control, and not just in Ridgewood, but in many districts across the state, across other states, and across this country. So being educated about what's really happening on a local, state, and federal level, I think is invaluable today, and into addressing and running budgets. Having excellent fundraising abilities through the Education Foundation, through other organizations, we listed them tonight, some of them are amazing, they're fantastic, they're appreciated, and I know I can only imagine the effort that goes into that. But to look at a budget based on that, I think is a problem. I think to fund initiatives to do that, I think is a problem.
How do you reconcile the intrusion, if you will, of the state and federal government into local boards of education and the Board of Education's role to uphold and abide by?
I did read that.
Federal laws.
I was waiting for you to ask that question.
Oh, you were?
I had a feeling it was
I wasn't sure I was asking. You're also a money green.
No. I'm not surprised you said that, based on my comments. Sure. I think it's a fair question based on my comments, and that's what I meant. Ethically, there is a little word there, and it says ethically. Yes, I would certainly uphold, what the state laws and requirements are. But there is an ethical responsibility as a board member to also stand up for this community. And, I think that's where I can stand on an ethical ground.
Great, thank you for answering that. At this time, do you see any limitations or conflicts of interest with your service on the board?
No.
I'm going to just open it up to other board members if you have a question.
I just want to go back and answer Sheila, because you correctly stated that it's a question you've anticipated, Terry. By the way, I first met Terry years ago when she single-handedly saved the Ridgewood roller hockey program.
And I've been skating forever, right?
But in any case, I have heard you, and I understand your passion on the subject, but I have heard you advocate that we almost be defiant of the legislative or regulatory rules that we have sworn an oath to uphold. Can you do that if you were in this role, even though you disagree with them very, very adamantly and passionately?
I have given it a lot of thought of that. And again, I think if it came down to it, I would have to stand on what is best for this community. Now, I know you take an oath, and as I said, I mean, it's not that I would not uphold what the state, but I also would challenge the state when it is not in the best interest of this community. I mean, I over the years, I mean, it's like a little bit of a joke, but it's not so much of a joke. I mean, you know, maybe you'll go to jail. I don't know. I mean, if you have to take a stand sometimes, I mean, are they going to arrest you? I don't know. But I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to break the law. Pardon me?
We certainly wouldn't want to see.
No, but I mean, you have to take a stand. Sometimes you have to take a stand. I know. Well, let me backtrack. I've been very involved with the legislatures. That is the way to change things. To go to your state, to go to talk to Senator Russo, Assemblyman Romano, Assemblyman David, it's O'Toole, Senator O'Toole, Russo and Romano. Talk to Scott Barrett, go down to Trenton, go to Washington, get petitions, write letters, yes. But you have to make a stand. Sometimes you have to make a stand. And if there's a situation that is not good for the students, and not good for the teachers, and not good for the administrators, and not good for the community, I think you have to make a stand. And, you know, I'd rather be honest here and dishonest, to be truthful. Of course, now I'm in hot water saying I go to jail, but
You're
you
not
know,
hot water.
yeah. But the point is, I mean, I'm very aware of the legislative process. I am. I've done it, and I continue to do it. They all know me. You know, I think they just all take like turns, pick up the phone, and notice me calling. But beyond that, you know, I would continue that process, but I would make the community aware, and I would stand for the community. Yeah, and again, hey, the community may not agree with me. You know, I was not a 100% supporter of the one-to-one initiative, as Jim knows. Not because I'm against technology, none of that. I mean, I would have spent that money differently. I'm also against the one-to-one promo initiative for the fact that it's with part testing assessment, so that the state and federal government can track with the SDLs, you know, state longitudinal data systems, that whole race to the top, in which I know I can't even start to talk about tonight. That I get it. I get it. But again, I didn't want to say those words. But the point is, you know, there's things that people are not going to agree with me. I get that. That I do understand.
Okay. So I'm just gonna sort of move this along because it's been 20 minutes, but Christina, do you have a question or a follow-up?
No, I can ask you if you follow the budget or you attend board of ed meetings, because you do all of those things very regularly. And I do appreciate your passion, and I appreciate the fact that you do take a stand on things. And I do appreciate the fact that you then go and you have taken it to that more productive level, which is advocating for your district and visiting with your elected representatives, because that's about the best that you can do. From sitting behind this dais, you know, there are certain things that you are sworn to uphold, and they may chafe at you, and so you use an alternative outlet to express your dissatisfaction in the way that our Constitution intends you to do. And I appreciate that.
Jim, do you have any follow-up question?
Well, I'd ask the 2% question again, but you're going to tell me that you're splitting the budget, we don't have a conclusion on it. Well, my question about how do you feel operating the 2% ceiling in the state?
I actually was very grateful and impressed to hear you talk about trying to do 1% going in that direction. And I appreciate that, Jim. So, I hate I have such a hard problem I do have a hard time with the state basically telling us anything. It just gets under my skin a bit. But thank you for talking about the 1%. It's a good approach.
Okay, did you have any questions for us?
Now, Nicole and Michael, the other candidates, did ask those questions and you answered them perfectly for me. So I think I'm in good shape. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Very much. Thank you.
Okay. Our next candidate is Dana Pistache. Am I really murdering your last name? Thank you. Sorry about that. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. Yes, I skipped. You're right. In my file, I have it wrong. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's already feeling like an underdog.
Oh, I apologize. I had it out of order. Thanks, Jim, again tonight.
I'm afraid to do that. Check vote.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Okay, Alexander Harmon. So, welcome.
Thank you.
So you've been listening, so we have, 20, 25 minutes. You did get the questions, and so we'll go through those now. Okay? All right. So what prompted you to submit your application to become a member of the Board of Education?
Well, I think like many of the people in this room, one of the reasons that I'm with Ridgewood was because of the school. And I just tremendously excited about the opportunity that I heard about this vacancy. I think I approach it a little bit like a parent, and a little bit like a student, and a little bit like a civil rights attorney, which is what I do for my day job. In terms of me as a parent, I have a nearly 2-year-old daughter. So when I think about the schools of Ridgewood, I am thinking a little bit about this decade, but I'm also thinking about the next decade and the decade after that. And I really see this vacancy, which obviously is not a vacancy meant to last for decades, but I see it as an opportunity to begin a contribution that would last for, I would hope, many, many years. Being here in Ridgewood has been very good time here. Just a tremendous just to learn about this community and about the school, and I just really relish the opportunity to contribute today. Not just
The heat or air conditioning just kicked in. And I wonder if you could just bring that microphone a little bit closer.
I would absolutely do that. Is this? Yeah. Can you hear me? Okay. Yes. Thank you. So I would absolutely welcome the opportunity to contribute, not just for this year, but I hope for many years to come. And in terms of how I approach this when I think about, as I was as a student, students of this community, one of the values that I really cherish is educational excellence. It's something that I have strived for my entire life when I was a student, and teachers that I work with inspired me so tremendously. I think about the teachers I had in third grade, in high school, all the time, and I feel so strong. They sent me on the path that I'm on today, and I know that this town we have tremendous teachers, and I know that that represents an incredible opportunity for students in this community, and that's the work that I want to do, obviously not as a teacher, but as the civic support for our schools. And then the last component is me as a civil rights attorney in my day job, but I do primarily employment-related litigation, so largely discrimination. And education, as I think many educators and the communities that support educators believe, that education Harvard for the art democracy, and it's just a tremendous thing to see. So young students learning, engaging, and building the skills that they will bring to our country for the rest of their lives. And I want to see that work.
Is there anything in particular that interests you about this position on the Board of Education?
Well, for a number of months, I've been trying to educate myself and learn more about full day kindergarten and that particular issue. So that is something that I would love to partner on this project. That's something that you have been working on, and obviously have a lot of people talking and writing to you about, and I would love to be a supporter of that effort, and also a supporter of trying to figure out how to fund that effort, because I recognize that is a crucial piece of getting this done and getting this done in a timely fashion.
What do you see as the primary duties and responsibilities of the Board of Education in Medford?
Well, I think that one of the major duties obviously has to do with the overseeing and management of our teachers and our staff. And certainly at the start of this meeting, we offset the negotiations with the teachers being present primarily. And in my day job, certainly negotiating complex multi-year contracts is what I do, and is certainly something that I would be proud to contribute. I also see an important role for the board in assessing and innovating policies that promote educational excellence. In addition, I see communicating with our community as being a high priority, so that everyone feels a sense of ownership of this board and a sense that they are heard. That even if the board can't accommodate the views of everyone, we certainly can. We certainly can make sure that we are speaking to everyone as well. And so certainly that's something that I would want to work on. And of course, a major priority for is maintaining fiscal responsibilities, overseeing resources, and that's something
So how do you see your professional or personal attributes that you bring to the position enhancing the district's operation?
This better?
Much better.
That's way better, okay. I didn't need to ask the question. In terms of my professional attributes, as I said, I'm a civil rights litigator. A lot of what I do is negotiate contracts. Obviously, with the work before, you are working with people who are doing that, but I would certainly like to be a resource and assist the board in dealing with this complex and sensitive negotiation. And one of the things that I've experienced in various forms of my work is the challenge of negotiating contract and other kinds of resolutions. When you have an ongoing working relationship, like an ongoing working relationship with our teachers. And so that is something that I would really prioritize. It's not only achieving negotiation or achieving negotiated resolution, but also doing so while maintaining positive relationships with the stakeholders. In addition, another professional skill that I have is analyzing legislative, regulatory, and other forms of guidance. And one of the things I would do with the board is work to innovate within the kinds of constraints from the state and federal government and from our own local constraints that we're dealing with. And so that's something I would work to provide guidance. I have a lot of experience collaborating with experts and working to develop statistical arguments and analyze the data in order to discuss policy issues in the form of budget, right? Just as the study is being undertaken on the that kind of collaboration with consultants or experts is the kind of thing that I love doing. Probably it's by far one of my favorite parts of my job is working with experts and learning more and developing a rigorous analysis to support plan of action.
Great. So you've been living in Ridgewood for 14 months?
That's right.
So, and with a 2-year-old and your law practice, have you had much involvement in the community as of now? Or would it be early in your career here in Ridgewood?
So a lot of my community involvement at this point is through my civic life. My husband is the rabbi of Temple Beth, Washington Township, which is a couple minutes over the border to the east. And so I spent a lot of time at Temple Beth, and there have the privilege of being good friends with a lot of our friends are from Ridgewood. So many of the friends that I've made in Ridgewood, I actually made a couple of them in that township. And at Temple Beth, one of the things that I try to be very involved in is building our community, especially of parents from Belgium. Lots of who are surrounded.
Great.
Prior to Ridgewood and still now here, throughout a lot of my adult life, I've had ongoing involvement with various publications and policy issues. So analyzing policy issues has been bread and butter. A lot of my engagement outside of work, or those kinds of things. When I was in college, I was an editor-in-chief of health policy review, which is health policy issues. In law school, I ran the Institute on Feminism, which dealt with legal issues from a gender perspective. And now I write for a blog called Shattering the Ceiling, which deals with work and gender issues as well. So I really have a passion for policy, and I really just love to sink my teeth into the work that we're doing.
So you sort of talked about what your roles in these different organizations have been. You want to add anything more? Or?
I think that what I can say is that those experiences have really enabled me to speak about policy in an informed way, and more relevant to your work has enabled me to sink my teeth into something and really have to speak on difficult, challenging issues, and to approach those issues not as a partisan, but really as someone who wants to learn the right path, and really figure out an issue, especially complicated issues, which obviously, as a board, you're dealing with a lot of complicated issues. And then, in terms of my community involvement in my Jewish life, which has been a constant for all of my adult life, I think it has really been a way that I engage with many different kinds of people, and that's also something I want to engage with many different kinds of people. The board is accountable to so many different kinds of people, accountable to our students and to our teachers and to our administrators and to so many others. And I think that is something that I really embrace, is that, I don't have one constituency, I have all of those constituencies.
Do you see any limitations or conflict of interest in taking on a board position?
Well, when I came into the meeting, I thought the answer was no, but I think now I have seen clear limitation. I am not going to jail. That's
always good to know.
Yes,
Especially as a lawyer. You really want to do that.
Other than that, I don't see any limitations.
In fact, we just have to know that we have not none of us have been in jail yet, so.
Are you sure?
All signed.
Criminal history background.
Right, it's all been fingerprints. As I've done with the other candidates, I open it up to board members if you have a question you'd like answered, ask a question.
Well, I certainly can ask my question with regards to how you feel with doing these cases. I'll take that off the table.
We tried to get into the lens, very hard to get in.
Christina?
Well, I think you've pretty much answered everything. You know, you've only been here a few months, so it's difficult. We just haven't really tracked our budget or participated or come to any of our board meetings. But that being said, your curiosity and interest it's very nice to see. And I welcome your participation.
Can I ask you, do you have any knowledge, awareness into the issues that have been surrounding school districts across the country over the last year, especially with regards to Common Core and standardized testing? Do you have an opinion on that? Do you have an awareness of that, and what impact that is having?
Well, I know that I'm reading into controversial waters when talking about one or worse than precedent, but I will say I really think that Common Core is I don't know that it's the perfect curriculum, but I think it's trying to do something really good to our students. I think that, you know, the move towards higher level analytical thinking is something that has to be addressed. I don't, while I certainly understand the perspective of many about the control of, you know, the desire to limit the involvement of the federal government and the state government, I do think that there are really benefits in those standards, and I'm proud that New Jersey has not given up these standards.
Jim, did you have it?
I have a couple of questions. You mentioned negotiations and that you involved. You have not been involved in negotiations between teachers and boards of education.
That's correct. I have not been involved in those negotiations.
You're not really familiar with New Jersey state statutes governing how the negotiations work.
That's correct. So I have not had direct experience with that. I am an attorney that is practicing in New Jersey, and I certainly would familiarize myself with all of those regulations prior to serving.
The question I've asked every candidate, we have operated at a 2% cap in the state. How does that affect you as a board member?
Well, I mean, I think that in the real world, whether there's a cap imposed by the state or not, there are budgetary constraints that we're facing. Whether or not that state cap existed, we would still be facing budgetary constraints, whether it's from the state or from taxpayers here in Ridgewood. So, I mean, I accept that as the reality it is, and I certainly appreciate the goal that you're setting forth about trying to conceive of a budget within that constraint so that we would have further budget available to deal with initiatives like full day kindergarten or potentially other initiatives. So I see myself as realistic that that's the reality we're under, and that's what people work within.
Do you have any questions for us?
Well, I probably do, but for your own sake, I don't want to keep you very long. I will just end by saying I do think that obviously I am new at this. Obviously, I am not the most experienced in here, but I can assure you that I will work incredibly hard for this work, and I will approach all
enthusiastic energy. You know, I am not shown worse. I'm a person that will leave out to work and I'll meet deadlines. And I really think we do this.
Thank you very much. Dave, and I do apologize, I guess, for that.
Good evening, everybody. Very nice to be here and to see you all here.
And you're new to the community too.
Yes, the previous candidate beat me by about 20 days.
Oh, okay. So you got the questions, and so we'll start. So what prompted you to submit your application to become a board member?
If you don't mind, I'll just take 20 seconds to say hi to my daughter. Hi, Sophie. She's watching my channel 33 right now. She said, "Mom, but say hi."
Oh, okay.
Yeah, increase our viewership. I want.
Yes. The sound was on on TV when I came.
We all sat.
And how old is your daughter?
She said she goes to summer camp.
Oh, nice.
And I also have a 7-month son.
Oh, okay.
Well, I've heard everything that everybody else said before me, and while I'm new to Ridgewood, and I'm also pretty new to, being an American citizen and living in the United States. I've only been living here for 9 years now. Previously, I lived in Romania. I would like us to consider a question tonight while interviewing me. And the question is, will the 5,700 children who today go to Ridgewood public schools be living in Ridgewood after graduation? And I would say, and most of you hope, that they will move on with their life. Who knows where they will go? Maybe they will go to Eastern Europe, where I'm from, to explore some new market opportunities. Maybe they will move to Asia or maybe Latin America. There's no way for us to know what's going to happen to them. I bring a global perspective of somebody who comes from emerging markets and who has incredible opportunities because I came from an emerging market, from a former communist country. And the United States gave me incredible opportunities, so did Western Europe. This is one of the reasons I moved to Ridgewood, because it's such a profound European community at its core. It's a European community with European values, although they are very well integrated with what constitutes the core of American values today. One little piece of information I would also like you to consider is that Ernst & Young, one of the big 4 consulting firms in the world, they announced that they will no longer consider degrees, university degrees, when hiring their professionals in the United Kingdom. So I'm not sure how fast that's going to be adopted internationally, but we should, pose and ask the question: if degrees will not matter to companies of that magnitude when hiring professionals, what will that be for our children who are now 15, who want to, go to Harvard or go to Stanford or pay those huge amounts of money, which I did too. I'm a tough grad as well. What will it mean to them? Should they pursue that kind of education? Should they rethink about what they want to do with their lives? My personal mission and what I really would like to leave, as the legacy for my work with young people and especially with professionals, is that we should be considering vocation for our work rather than careers, profitable careers that are based on a very well-established plan, which is what the United States has done and has done very well for many years so far. Second Lady Jill Biden is a great endorser of vocational education. And by vocational education, I mean the concept of education that's right now happening in Switzerland and has been going so well for years and years. More and more businesses in many cities in the United States are now offering apprenticeships to high school graduates and even to middle school graduates, so that they will experience real true professions, hands-on professions, as an alternative for their careers. Is that a possibility we should consider for our children moving on? I know all this information, and I would love to share with you. And I know I'm new to the city, I'm new to the town. What I can say is that I'm here to stay, I'm not here to go next year or in 2 years. I love Ridgewood. My daughter loves it here. She, it was a little bit of an adjustment, but she made great friends, and I really appreciate the community. Just like I said, I feel like home. It's profoundly European to me. But I hope that what I'm bringing to the table and this new perspective and these questions are going to be a part of what the state, the government, the local government as well is going to be asking. And I see that at the legislative level too, they're trying to make some changes in what education really means. What degrees are no longer going to be needed in 10 years from now by big employers who are going to consider candidates. That's just one question we should all think about.
Thank you. So I guess I'm hearing, is there something that really interests you about this position? But
yes, absolutely. Any impact that I could bring by the direct application of my knowledge. I have 7 years of academic studies in public policy, foreign relations, and international relations. And one of those 7 years happened here at Tufts University. Although you're going to ask me this question a little later, which communities I'm involved with, I would rather mention now that I'm a member of the World Economic Forum, which is an organization recently became a public-private partnership. It did not have a direct partnership with the state, with the Swiss state, but now it does. The World Economic Forum has a group called the Young Global Leaders who every year impact issues like education, environment, poverty, and many other issues that are confronting the United States right now. I had the privilege of being a part of a one-day working session at the White House 2 years ago, opened by their public engagement partner. And one of the key issues, of course, was education. I could see that at that highest level, and think back or deconstruct what those discussions were about to what's happening today in Ridgewood, I could see that we really need to have our kids think globally. Because you know what, one of the moms at Summer told me, she had a son in high school as well, and she said, I don't know what to do anymore. My son has all the correct grades. He tested really well. But what if the Cambodian or Latin American or Eastern European kid who was poor and he succeeded despite all adversity in his life is going to take his path because he has the leadership understanding of the world, just because of that. What does that have to do with my son? What am I doing wrong? How can I improve his chances? I would really like to bring that perspective to the table.
What do you see as the duties and responsibilities of a Board of Education member?
I personally think that the board is a filter. It's a filter of what comes from, the federal level, state level, and basically that filter is like a matrix, like a matrix. You take it and apply it to the needs of the community. And most of the time, because Mr. Morgan was talking about the 2% cap, most of the time, those needs cannot be met, especially the needs of a community, highly intellectual community like Ridgewood cannot be met by the attempt of the federal government to average out benefits and capabilities. Because, that's what we're trying to do with the educational system. We're trying to average out so that we don't have kids that are really left behind. And we hope that those that are truly exceptional are going to know how to get their way through. But how can we put that aside and involve our communities so that our community will provide extra resources, be they financial or human resources? Good question.
What personal or professional attributes would you bring to the table to enhance our operation?
I, in a way, am a hybrid consultant because I started off as a journalist, and maybe you can see it from my resume, but I really have an innate curiosity, and I love to observe what's going on and question it all the time. In a way, maybe that's why I'm studying law right now.
Yeah.
It's the other side of the coin of being a journalist, and it's a stimulating intellectual process for me. I love learning. That's one of the things that brings education or makes education to be so close to my heart. I know how to teach. I have the ability of understanding what children, or how children need to be communicated to make learning fun or to make learning interesting. But also, I also understand that the concept of leadership that we're really trying to teach our children is almost totally missing from our schools right now. And I'm not just saying it as a criticism to the Ridgewood schools. God forbid, I think that Ridgewood schools are so much higher in level than what I've seen pretty much in other states or other communities. But that leadership concept, which is very dear to me and I have experience with, and skills that can bring that, let's say in a conversation or in work with students, those leadership skills need to be learned through experience. So maybe also we as a community, outside of the curriculum that we have to carry on, that we have to carry through, we can bring that to our children to really help them navigate the challenges of today's life.
I know you're new to the community. Have you had some involvement at all in any community organizations in the last year and few months?
I did, and I would have done more, but I was really pregnant all through last winter. It was not an easy winter. I'm really from New York. It was, it was a hard winter.
Yes.
And I walked my daughter to school about a mile. We used to walk all the time in New York, so when we moved, the deal was we would walk to school and back. And
thank you for that. Contributing to the travel.
Right. What I can say is that I have been involved in her school's programs, the art docent program that Somerville has. That's a great program. Just today I had a meeting to be involved in the brain docent program. I've also worked with kids on various artistic projects in the school. But I think that my daughter, as a part of the community, we're trying to make her be a part of the community. I set up a Christmas choir. And we have, we were like 8 kids and about 12 parents who last Christmas went around Ridgewood and we sang, Christmas carols all around the town, and we went inside restaurants and businesses, and everybody was extremely surprised, I have to say, but they welcomed us greatly. In terms of how I impacted through my skills, like direct teaching or doing something else, I didn't do it. Mostly, I would say, because I was home with my son. He is 7 months.
7 months old, yes. Great experience. I remember those days. So let's see. So through, I guess, as you look at your life skills that you've built over these times and all the things you've done, how do you feel your involvement has prepared you to sit on the Board of Education?
I think that I did it perfectly.
Oh, okay.
that has been my feeling since I read about the opportunity. And I'm saying this because I was looking for an opportunity like this. I couldn't pinpoint and say I want to be a member of a board of education. The opportunity I was looking for was where I'm able to pass on information about what I see the future of education being, and how can I help other kids like my daughter understand that they will not be living in Oasis for the rest of their lives. They're going to suddenly become 18 and go out in the world that's not just the United States anymore. And I'm saying it because I chose to live here and I'm in America now. And I'm saying it seeing that Americans do have very hard competition right now globally. So these kids are going to be global citizens. They're going to have to compete with everybody else.
Thank you. And do you see any limitations or conflicts of interest that you would have?
You would have to ask my son, but he can't talk it. But no, as far as I'm concerned.
Again, we'll open it up to board members if you have a question. And I'll just do what I've done before. Vince, would you like to?
I don't have any at this time.
Okay.
I just have a question based on what you just said before about competing globally. Do you think that American students cannot compete globally currently?
Absolutely, I think they can definitely compete globally. What I think the environment was before, and what I felt really benefiting for me, I used to work for a British law firm, but there were a lot of American lawyers there. So the rest of the world, or let's say the underdeveloped markets, used to believe that the Western was, a supremacy. Western Europe was a supremacy and people were better educated, better prepared. I believe that that gap is not as big right now. And I think that all the American kids, my daughter included, need to understand that all of the other countries are opening up to technology, to global thinking, to leadership. What I'm saying is that it's not enough for them to just focus on their local capabilities. They have to understand and see and learn about the rest of the world as well.
Jim?
I'll ask my 2% question. We operate under a 2% cap in the state. How do you see that affecting your functioning as Board of Education?
I see that as motivating. I will promise to look for opportunities wherever I can to enhance education for the children of Ridgewood. Even those opportunities will have to come through fundraising or they will have to come through public-private partnerships. I promise I will do my best to do it. I am well connected with international organizations, and I know that their impact, their interest in education is tremendous. Organizations like the UN Foundation, for example, or the World Economic Forum. So projects that are going to help our kids be and think more internationally, that I can support, and in a way we don't even need help.
But how would you bring those into this community? This community is regarded as an affluent community. Most of those organizations don't necessarily support the kind of things we do.
Right. First of all we have to do is come up with a project, something that we think and we feel will be useful to our kids. What should we focus on? Let's take 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds. Let's ask them what kind of careers do they want to have. Do they want to travel internationally? Are they prepared to be international thinkers, global leaders, thought leaders? In what field? One challenging thought is that everybody now is focusing on STEM. Everybody is all math and robotics and IT. But in reality, if this is just some information from the last Davos meeting of the World Economic Forum, the only really valuable commodity we have, and that will never be able to be replaced by robots or programs, is creativity. Are we fostering it enough? So let's do a project like that. And we can do it locally. I mean, we have so many involved parents here. With their help, we can just pull that together. But we need someone dedicated who would be willing to take that effort.
Do you have any questions for us?
Not right now. And what I can say is that you choose, anybody from the 7 candidates, and I'm sure that it's impossible to have just an objective selection process because I know it's not possible. We will use our own criteria as well as the professional criteria. And just like I said, I know I'm not here since a long time ago, but I'm not going anywhere for a longer time. So I'm dedicated to this community.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Nice meeting you. Thank you.
Narali, is she here tonight?
Anyone else?
I'm not seeing if there's anybody in the back. So Terry, is there anybody else back there with you?
No, let's see.
Okay.
This is late in the next approval, and not getting another 20 minutes.
Okay, well, so our last candidate, then, so we have 6 now, is Jenny Smith-Wilson. And you have either the advantage or disadvantage of being last tonight. Thanks for waiting. It's been a long sit for you, I know, as well for all the other candidates. So you heard, we've got about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and sent you the questions, you received the questions in advance. So we'll get started, and Jenny, what prompted you to submit your application to become a member of the Board of Education?
Well, first I'd like to thank you for staying up so late tonight and the opportunity to respond to your questions. And be a part of this group of highly qualified residents who want to contribute their time to the Board of Education's work coach So what prompted me? Well, serving on the Board of Education is something that I really want to do. And it's something I've been thinking about for a while. Last spring, as a part of my process, I met with the current Board of Education members to express my interest in running. And for an open seat in the future, and to hear their perspectives about the role of the Board of Ed member. My interest was not to challenge a sitting board member, but to run for an open seat. Lenhart's resignation creates an opportunity to serve Ridgewood, and the timing couldn't be better. I think Ridgewood is very fortunate to have such a strong and committed group of volunteers that oversee our schools, and I would like consider it an honor for what we do.
Is there anything in particular that interests you about being on the board?
As a board member, I'd like to work with the board to identify and address the challenges that lie ahead. I certainly heard a lot tonight in the earlier part of the meeting, but education, societies, and our students are evolving. It's fair to say that today's senior class and next September's kindergarten class will view the world through different lenses. At the same time, public education in Ridgewood will continue to be challenged by budget limitations, an aging infrastructure in our 11 buildings, and the need to continuously enhance higher levels of student achievement. While I don't know the solutions, I do believe that to intelligently manage these challenges, the board must work together, and with one eye on the future and another on the needs of today. Like many of you, earlier this year, I attended the first Civility Roundtable at Village Hall. The Board of Education was described as a civil board in the way you work together in the face of the complexities of public education and the impassioned opinions that education engenders. I agree, and the idea of working with a group of people to together oversee the effective operation of our schools while planning for the district's present and future needs is what I want to be a part of, and it's something I believe I can actively and immediately contribute
to. What do you see as the duties and responsibilities of the Board of Education? And I know you've been watching the board's meetings on your computer, right?
I know what Jim's comment in June, yes.
You're one of the three.
So I like this expression of the role of the Board of Education. We're elected, or in this instance appointed, to represent the entire district in all matters pertaining to education. And I think that says it all. When Doug and I moved to Ridgewood, Madeline was in 8th grade and Angus was in 2nd grade. So I bring the perspective of a resident who has seen almost the entire system. That perspective is important because this is a large district, 5,748 students. That's a big number. And I learned from my time on the Ridgewood Education Foundation Board and as an ex officio member of Federated that the concerns of parents at the elementary level are not the same as the concerns of parents at the middle and high school level. And while there are different cohorts of parents, and there are also students with many different learning styles, but this is one district. In fact, the BOE is the board of directors of the schools. The board member works with the district administration to effectively manage both Board of Ed and district goals and the expectations of the public, while serving on committees to delve more vertically into specific areas that relate to schools. I look forward to board training and participating when appropriate in state board education groups and working with other board members to be a voice at the state legislature with regard to important educational policy initiatives. I looked at some of the committees that Michelle previously served on, and they're all fascinating. The legislative committee, REACT, the Garden State Coalition of Schools. I know the board members are all the way inside the schools, which I think is wonderful. It's a great way to stay and keep a pulse on what's happening in the schools.
What personal or professional attributes would you bring to the Board of Education, and how do you see them enhancing our operation?
A couple of things. So I've worked in advertising for 25 years, over 25 years. So I'd say that I'm a career communications professional. And I hope to use that to find ways to enhance communications between the Board of Ed, the district administration, and the community. I often hear or see parents' frustrations come out of Board of Ed meetings and in social media. over concerns that we can address with better issue, position, and process communication. And I think that's very important because I think it can be a distraction from what the business at hand is if we don't get in front of it. I also believe that it's important to invest in education. So to a little bit of Jim's point, it's important to carefully oversee our $101 million school budget with critical assessment of the district's present and future needs while working within the 2% cap. During my 25-year career, I managed annual budgets that ranged from $2 to $250 million. I was not a corporate CFO. My role was to develop communications objectives, analyze strategies, and make sure we spent the budget in the most cost-effective and efficient way to deliver the expected results. That's where I believe there's a correlation to the budget for me. A few years ago, I attended the Garden State Coalition of Schools meeting with Ms. Leonard and Mr. Longton. It was interesting to listen to the other districts who were preparing for challenges to curriculum and state testing. This broader exposure to shared challenges as well as idea sharing is critical learning for a board member. And we're appointed, I hope to be a part of those broader meetings and organizations to expand that learning.
Your community involvement and your experiences.
Community involvement, well,
yeah.
I'm on the Ridgewood zoning board of adjustment, and it's a great way to learn about how a community works from the perspective of a municipal board. Aside from a basic understanding of New Jersey municipal land use law and the Ridgewood zoning ordinances, I've learned to see and appreciate each application from a 360-degree view. That has application to what I believe the role of a member of the Board of Education is. 360-degree view entails understanding the perspective of each interested party. In the case of our schools, that would be the students, the educators and staff, the administrators, the parents, the community as a whole, even the facilities. I believe that that ability to look for the impact, positive or negative, on all parties affected by a decision is an important skill that I have honed and bring to the board. On the zoning board, we may not agree on an application, but we are collegial and friendly at the end of every meeting, which I think is very important. As president of the Ridgewood Education Foundation for the past 4 years, I've had the chance to work with Dr. Fishbein and his desk and many of the principals. Through that role, I've developed an understanding of the complexities of the operation of a district as large as Ridgewood, and a community that has high expectations for our schools. I have also met and worked with an exceptional group of Ridgewood residents from across the village who come together to work as one group for the benefit of the schools. And I think both of those are very important.
So you described what role you've taken in those organizations. So how do you feel that that involvement has prepared you for the role of a Board of Education member?
Well, I've attended federated meetings, I think, for 5 straight years. So I've seen a lot of budget presentations. I've listened to a lot of parents' concerns, and I've seen that our district administration and board of representatives address those. And I think that's given me a very good perspective. I think also working on the municipal board gives you an idea of how this village works and what the priorities are and why we have challenges that we have.
Do you see any limitations or conflict of interest that you might have as you were selected as a board?
Well, sadly, I have to resign those 2 boards I just spoke. I'm loving them, but that's part of the deal. It's in the bylaws of the foundation, and it's also municipal land use law that you can't be appointed or elected official on another board, so I have to resign those. But other than that, I foresee no other conflicts of interest or issues.
Might you think you'd have more free time if you did? You won't.
I did.
Wouldn't that? I'm going to open it up to other board members for any questions. Thanks.
I don't have any questions this time.
Hi, thanks for coming. I am very familiar with volunteer involvement. I'm unfederated. I see you at all those meetings. We've talked many, many times about a plethora of things that happen in the village here. I know that your older child went through the Ridgewood school system and your younger child did not.
Could you possibly speak to what made you make that solution? Well, first thing that Madeline is, to me, an example of everything wonderful about Ridgewood. She started in 8th grade, went through the high school, got into her first early decision college was her first choice. Got 400 years of college, was incredibly prepared. Had a job offer in April or May of her senior year of college, and now works in the city and supports herself, which I have to say is wonderful. And there's all students, all in a family, and everything's different. And just started the second grade at Ridgewood, through 8th grade at GW, came to us and said, you know what, I really think I'm going to school. And that was a hard decision. Because we didn't move to Ridgewood because the schools aren't great, that's the reputation. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it was the best school. So I think that, although it's unfortunate, that he's not there, he's a taxpayer for government myself. But I do think that him being in another school gives me some interesting perspective that I can bring to this board as a parent and a mom. And I think that that's valuable, a valuable perspective.
We already talked about 2% questions. So I was intrigued with comments about the communication, how we can enhance that. This is still relying on communication, and it's something we would struggle with. How do we get our message out of numerous outlets, and how do we make them effective outlets?
Well, I think you have to look at the outlet. And I think you have to manage the message. And I think that's hard. Having been in so many meetings, specifically using the Federated as an example, you have parents who are passionate to the children, to the children's schools, their expectations are very high. When a message, usually in social media, I would say, a message gets out there that's not factual, it gets a life of its own. And at some point, there's a need to step in with the facts and to control the message with the facts. And I think that sometimes I watched the Board of Ed meeting in June, a discussion about class sizes. And having sat through so many meetings about schools, it was upsetting to me to hear people say things that were right. Because they hadn't taken the time to learn about the way things are done. And you do a very good job of communicating, but not everybody has the time to read everything that's sent out. So I think there are opportunities to find better ways. For example, with the budget presentations, I think we make every effort, you will make every effort to get the budget presented. If we have sometimes if there's 3 people in the meeting, we have to find other ways because we don't want to care. And we have to find ways to control the messages.
It shows that you would have more time for the board.
Do you have any questions for us?
I think you answered them all this evening. But thank you very much. I would like to say one thing, and that is that this is a wonderful group of candidates, and I would be happy to support anyone you all decide to appoint to the next 2 weeks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I want to thank all the candidates for coming. I can't tell you how thrilled I am for the expertise you all have. And if you're not selected, because we only have 1 opening and 6 excellent candidates, I hope you will become involved either on a committee or look at the other opportunities in the district or your children's, become more involved with your children's schools. This is a fabulous district, I must say. I have 3 kids who went through this district, and I sit here as a very grateful parent and as a taxpayer, and very committed to this community. So, and I've seen your passion tonight, and I really, really thank you all for coming and sitting through these very long meetings. So we'll, I think that we'll be doing some calls to references, and we'll figure that one out, and we will be taking a vote on the candidate for this 1 seat on October 5th. I'm not sure exactly where that will fit in the agenda, but we'll work that through. It'll probably be early on. But it might be after the presentations. I don't know what's planned for that evening on the agenda quite yet. But we'll get word out to you. And I, again, thank you so much for coming and sharing and being so honest and showing your commitment to this district. So thank you. We have finished our business for this evening, but let's just spend a minute on the references. At our last time around, I had done a lot of the calling on the references. The other board members at that point didn't seem quite as interested. But I don't know where your feeling is on this, so before I would.
I think we're obliged to check references.
Okay. So if you will let me, why don't I try to divvy it up and then get it out to you. And then what we'll do is from you, and I'll give you some questions, okay? And then from that, you'll share for everyone. But remember, you know, our important public, it has to be done in public, so let's not do, you know, you can just share the information. Why don't you share the information with me and I'll share it with everybody, but let's not do, you know, cross-talking, okay? All right, great. I'll get that done this week then.
Now, if we don't do the background check, the city
Right.
60 or 90 days.
Oh, you do a fingerprint?
Yeah, do all that.
Yeah, so that they make an appointment.
We're sending you this. Find out.
Well, it's considered personal.
Oh, okay.
Just because this could be done in executive session.
Okay. So
I'm not sure I heard that last time.
It is. Yes, this could have been done in executive sessions, just going to be passed.
Yeah, but I'm glad you brought up this, because the information we get from references can be very delicate, personal information. So when you said, Shirley, we need to share those results with the public.
No, I didn't say that, Sheila.
Okay.
With me.
Okay.
And I will make sure it's all correlated and get
Okay.
with that.
And that could be found.
Is that over?
I've been told by our attorney this would be done.
So let's just, why don't we just ask that question of Jeff on just on the references.
Because we can share the executive session, doesn't share it, should have done not actually schedule the executive session on this meeting to share the verbally and
I did. I figured that as well.
Okay. We didn't do that before, but yeah, we can do it now.
To the end of the meeting.
Okay, so we will get our assignments, and then we will all meet in executive session.
Yeah, we'll schedule an executive session. We'll have to figure that out. We'll figure out a timeline for that. I think probably we should do that before the 5th.
Yeah.
Just remember the last time we went through this process, you ended up with me.
Obviously, we didn't know to go backwards.
So, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
Okay,
Aye.
Aye.
thank you very much.